The chandelier above me held 12,000 crystals, but I wasn't counting the crystals. I was counting the seconds since the 4-year-old girl tugged my sleeve and whispered about the ticking man. 3 minutes. That was all I had. 3 minutes until 300 of the most powerful people in New York became red mist on my marble floors. 3 minutes until my empire vanished in a fireball. 3 minutes until the little girl who saved my life died screaming. I found Anthony Lombardi by the bar, his red tie a flag of betrayal in the sea of Armani suits. His hand was in his pocket, fingers already wrapped around the detonator. I moved through the crowd like smoke, silent and deadly, and clamped my hand around his wrist before he could press the button. The timer read 2:47, Anthony. My voice was pleasant, conversational, as if we were discussing the weather. Tell me about this clock in your pocket. His face drained of color. Mr. Russo, I can explain. I don't want an explanation. I want locations. How many bombs, and where. He tried to pull away, but I was stronger. I always had been. That was the thing about being the accountant. I settled debts, and I collected them personally. 3 minutes, I said softly, leaning close. 3 minutes until everyone I know dies. But I don't see a re about them. I see a re about the girl who just saved my life. I see a re about her mother. I see a re about the people who've been loyal to me. So I'm going to give you a choice. You tell me where the bomb's a re, and I let you live. You refuse, and I will make your death so slow that you will beg for the explosion. His eyes root left and right, sea urging for an escape that didn't exist. Moretti, C.A. Relo Moretti. He said it was a favor for someone higher up. Who's higher up? I don't know. I swear I don't. I squeezed his wrist until the bones ground together. Where are the bombs? Floral arrangements. The chandelier, under the dining tables, the kitchen gas lines. He was sobbing now, tears streaming down his face. Please, I told you everything. I released him and turned to my head of security. Take him to the basement. I'll deal with him after. The guard dragged Anthony away, and I went to work. The first bomb came out of the floral display NEA or the main entrance, its wires already a remed. The second was wired into the chandelier mechanism, a delicate piece of work that would have dropped 12,000 crystals on our heads. The third, fourth, and fifth were taped to the undersides of the dining tables, each one connected to a central detonator that was still ticking down at the timer hit 112 when I found the sixth bomb in the kitchen, strapped to the gas lines. A massive RGE, designed to turn the entire house into a crater. I disarmed it with 5 seconds to spare. I stood in the center of the kitchen, surrounded by my staff, who were ring at me with wide, terrified eyes. Rosa was there, holding Ria against her chest, her face pale as death. Everyone back to the Rudy. I ordered. Go. Smile. Act like nothing happened. We are not going to let them see our Fia are. They scattered, and I followed them back into the ballroom. The music was still playing, the champagne still flowing, the guests still laughing. They had no idea they had come within seconds of annihilation. I climbed the stairs to my private office and locked the door behind me. I poured myself a glass of scotch and read at my reflection in the arcade window. Someone had tried to kill me. Someone with access to my home, my security, my schedule. Someone I trusted. The door opened without a knock, and Victoria glided in. My fiancée. Beautiful, cold, ambitious. Her smile was perfect, her gown flawless, her eyes searching my face for clues. Vincent, what happened with Anthony Lombardi? I saw your guards dragging him away. Nothing, I said, watching her. Just a small issue. Handled. I hope you're not keeping secrets from me, darling. She approached me slowly, her heels silent on the CA repet. We're supposed to be partners. Partners. I laughed, a hollow sound. Is that what we are? Of course. I'm going to be your wife. You, she froze. What do you mean? I set down my glass and circled toward her. 2 years we've been engaged. You've pushed for a date, pushed for access, pushed for a place in my business. But you never asked me about my childhood. You never asked about my parents. You never asked me anything that mattered. Vincent, your SCA ring me. Good. I was close enough now to see the pulse fluttering in her throat. Tonight, someone tried to kill me. 300 people, including the woman I was going to marry. Anthony Lombardi said the orders came from higher up. Higher than Moretti. Someone who had access to my home, my security, My plans. Her eyes flickered. Panic, calculation, resignation. Vincent, I would never. Did I say you would? I'm asking if you know someone. Answer the question. She was silent for a long moment. Then, finally, she broke. I met someone, she whispered. A few months ago. He told me things about your past, about the people you killed. He said you were dangerous, that you would destroy everything I loved. He promised me protection if I helped him. Helped him do what? Get information. Accounts, security codes, schedules. He said he would do the rest. I didn't know about the bombs. I swear to God. Vincent, I didn't know. Who did you meet? She was crying now, her perfect makeup running down her face. Marco. Marco Vitali. He said he used to work for you. The glass shattered in my hand. Marco Vitali. 15 years of trust. 15 years of grooming my successor. 15 years of lies. He's waiting, Victoria sobbed. He said when the bomb went off, I should meet him at the docks. We were going to leave together. Start a new life with the money from your accounts. I took her chin in my hand, forcing her to meet my eyes. Did you love him? I don't know. I thought he read about me. Did you love him? Yes. Her voice was a whisper. I loved the way he made me feel. Special. Important. Like I mattered. I nodded slowly and released her. That's the worst part, isn't it, when you realize you were just another pawn? I pressed the hidden button on my desk, and Tugua RDS Ape read in the doorway. Take her to the basement. Put her in the room with Anthony Lombardi. Vincent, please. I turned my back on her and picked up my phone. 5 years had passed since I last called this number, but I still remembered it by heart. I need someone, I said when the voice answered. Marco Vitali. He's at the docks tonight, waiting for a woman who's never going to show. I want him alive, and I want him to suffer. For you, Vincent, anything. The call ended, and I looked out at the city I had built. The lights of Manhattan glittered like stars. Each one a life I had touched, a debt I had collected. Marco thought he could destroy me. He thought he could take my empire. He was about to find out exactly how wrong he was. I had the rest of the night to preparee. My men swept the grounds, searched every corner of the house, interviewed every guest. By morning, I had the full picture, a conspiracy that went deeper than I had ever imagined. Marco had been planning this for 3 years. He had poisoned my father's wine while he was dying, making it look like natural causes. He had fed information to the Morettas, costing me 3 of my best men. He had manipulated Victoria, played on her weakness, turned her into a weapon. And he had done it all for one reason. Revenged. They brought him to me at 3 in the morning, beaten and broken, his face swollen and his suit torn. I was waiting in my interrogation room, a space designed for moments like this, soundproof walls, a floor that sloped to a drain, a bolted chair in the center. Vincent, he spat blood on the floor. I expected better treatment from an old friend. You're not my friend. I circled him slowly. You tried to kill 300 people tonight. Your people were all part of your empire. They were just as guilty as you. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. And the child, the 4-year-old girl at the Rudy, was she guilty too? For the first time, his expression faltered. I didn't know there were children present. Liar. I stopped behind him, close enough to feel his tension. You planned every detail. You knew exactly who would be there. He was silent, his shoulders shaking with rage or fear. I couldn't tell which. You've been planning this for 3 years, I continued. You poisoned my father. You manipulated Victoria. You tried to destroy everything I built. All because you wanted my power. You think that's why I did this? He laughed, a broken sound. You think I wanted your pathetic empire. Then why? He turned his head, his eyes meeting mine. And in them, I saw something I hadn't expected. Grief. Deep, ancient grief. You killed my brother, he said. I froze. Antonio Vitali. You shot him in the back of the head in a Warri house in Brooklyn when he was 16 years old. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you ordered his execution without even knowing his name. The memory hit me like a physical blow. 25 years ago, a frightened boy caught in a deal gone wrong. I had been young and ruthless, eager to prove myself. I had given the order without a second thought. I've been waiting half my life for this. Marco continued, his voice trembling. Watching you, Leah running you, becoming you. I wanted you to trust me so I could watch everything you loved burn. And then what after you killed me? Take everything you built and destroy it. Wipe your name from history. Ista read at him, feeling the weight of his words. 25 years of hatred, ca refully cultivated. 25 years of sacrifice, all for one moment of revenge that I knelt in front of him. Our faces inches apart. Here's what I'm going to do, Marco. I'm going to let you live. Not because I'm merciful, but because I want you to suffer. I'm going to send you to a hole so deep you'll never see the sun again. Every day, you'll think about your brother. Every night, you'll dream about what you could have done differently. And when you're old and broken and forgotten, I'll come and visit you. And I'll tell you how my empire is still standing, how my family is thriving, how every single person you try to hurt is alive and happy. Go to hell. He spat. I stood up and walked toward the door. I've been there. It's not as bad as what I have planned for you. He was screaming as the guards dragged him away. That it wasn't over. Marco was just one piece of the puzzle. Someone else had orchestrated this, someone with more power, more influence, more reason to destroy me. But I had the name, I had the trail, and I had the patience to follow it all the way to the end. That the sun was rising over the city when I stepped outside. The sky was pink and orange, the streets filling with people going about their ordinary lives. They had no idea what had happened last night, no idea how close they had come to catastrophe. I walked to the garden, where Rosa was sitting on a bench with Maria in her lap. The little girl's eyes were closed, her face peaceful, her small hand clutching her mother's finger. Mr. Russo. Rosa looked up at me, her eyes red-rimmed. Is it over? I sat down beside her. Not yet, but soon. She nodded slowly, accepting my word without question. That was the thing about Rosa. She didn't need explanations. She didn't need reassurances. She just needed to know that I would protect her and her daughter. I'm going to make sure nothing like this ever happens again, I said. I promise you that. I know you will. She looked down at her sleeping daughter. She told me what she did, Mr. Russo. She told me she heard the man's thoughts. I looked at the little girl, and I felt something shift in my chest. She had no idea what she had done, no idea how many lives she had saved. She had acted on instinct, on a gift she didn't understand. She saved my life, I said quietly. She saved all of us. She's special. I've always known that. Even before she could talk, she would point at people and say things she couldn't possibly know. It's like she can see inside them. Whatever it is, it's a gift. And I'm going to make sure she's protected. Both of you agree. Always. Rosa reached out and took my hand. Thank you, Mr. Russo. Thank me by staying safe, I said. That's all I ask. Maria stirred in her mother's lap, her eyes fluttering open. She looked at me, and then she smiled, the widest, brightest smile I had ever seen. Uncle Vince, she murmured sleepily. The bad man is gone now. It's quiet. I felt a lump form in my throat. Yes, little one. The bad man is gone, and he's never coming back. She nodded, her eyes already closing again. Good. I watched her fall back asleep, and I made a vow. Not to myself, not to my empire, but to this little girl who had saved my life without even trying. I would find out who was behind this. I would tear down every person who had ever threatened her. And I would build a world where she could sleep in peace, knowing that the monsters were all locked away. But first, I had to find the truth. And to find the truth, I had to go back to the beginning. 2 days later, I received a letter from my mother. I hadn't spoken to her in 10 years, not since she walked out on my father and me without a backward glance. The letter was short, written in a hand I remembered. Vincent, my son, I know you have no reason to trust me, but I need to see you. There are things about your past I never told you. Things that could save your life. Please come to the old house. I'll be waiting. I read the letter 3 times, trying to decipher the hidden meaning. My mother had never been one to reach out. She had made her choice years ago, and she had lived with it in silence. But this was different. This was urgent. And something told me she had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The house was in Queens, a modest brownstone that had been in my family for generations. I hadn't visited since I was 10 years old, but I remembered every detail. The creaking stairs, the floral wallpaper, the smell of cinnamon and dust. She opened the door before I could knock, and I almost didn't recognize her. She was older, her hair gray and thin, her face lined with rs of worry. But her eyes were the same. RP, intelligent, full of secrets, Vincent. Her voice cracked. Thank you for coming. I'm here, I said flatly. Now tell me why. She led me to the living room, and I sat down on the same worn sofa I remembered from my childhood. She sat across from me, wringing her hands, and for a long moment, we just read at each other. I heard about the Pa Rudy, she said finally. The bombs. The betrayal. It reminded me of something that happened 25 years ago. Something I should have told you about a long time ago. Go on. Your father, she said ruefully. He didn't die in a business accident. He was murdered. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. That's impossible. He died of a HERT attack. HERTs don't stop on their own, Vincent. Not when someone's been feeding you poison for months. She took a shaky breath. There was a woman your father was involved with. She wanted his money, his power, everything he had. She convinced someone to help her take it all. Who? I don't know her name, but I know her face. I saw her at the funeral, standing in the back, watching. She was tall, blonde, with eyes like ice. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a photo of Victoria. Is this her? My mother's face went white. Where did you get that? She was my fiancée. Oh, Vincent. Her voice broke. Oh, my son. She's been playing you from the beginning. Everything clicked into place. Victoria wasn't a pawn in Rico's game. She was the architect. The woman who had destroyed my father. The woman who had seduced me. The woman who had tried to kill me, but she had been waiting for YRS, biding her time, playing the long game. Did you know? I demanded. All these YRS. Did you know she was still out there? I suspected. But I had no proof. And I was too red to say anything. She's dangerous, Vincent. She has connections you can't even imagine. I stood up abruptly, my mind racing. You should have told me. I was trying to protect you. Protect me, I exploded. You abandoned me. You left me alone with a dying father and an empire I had to build from nothing. And now I find out it's all been part of someone else's plan. My mother was crying now, tears streaming down her weathered face. I know I failed you. I made terrible choices. But I'm trying to make it right now. Please, Vincent, let me help you. I wanted to scream, to rage, to tear the house down. But I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. Tell me everything, I said. Every detail. Don't leave anything out. So she told me. She told me about the organization, a shadow network that had been pulling strings for decades. She told me about the ledger, a record of every crime, every betrayal, every death they had been responsible for. And she told me about the one person who could help me find it. Felix DeLuca, she said. He used to work for them. He's the only one who knows how to find the ledger. Where is he? She wrote an address on a piece of paper and handed it to me. BCA Refill, Vincent. He's not a good man, but he's your only lead. I folded the paper and put it in my pocket. Thank you for telling me the truth. Vincent. Her voice was a whisper. Your father loved you. He loved you more than anything in this world. And if he were here right now, he would be so proud of the man you've become. I couldn't answer. I just nodded and walked out the door, the weight of a decade of hatred and a century of secrets pressing down on my shoulders. That I had a lead. I had a purpose. And I had a debt to settle. The accountant was back in business. Felix DeLuca was waiting for me in a dive bar in the Bronx, nursing a glass of cheap whiskey like it was the last drink of his life. He was older than I expected, his face a roadmap of hard living and bad decisions. But his eyes were RP, calculating. The eyes of a survivor. Vincent Russo. He didn't look up as I slid into the booth across from him. I've been expecting you. Then you know why I'm here. He took a long sip of his whiskey. The ledger. Your mother told me you'd be coming. I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. Where is it? In a place you'll never find without me. He set down his glass and met my eyes. But I'm not giving it to you for free. I had expected this. Felix DeLuca hadn't survived this long by being generous. He was a man who understood the value of information, and he wasn't about to part with his most valuable asset without compensation. What do you want? I asked. Protection. When you find that ledger, you're going to bring down a lot of powerful people. They'll come for anyone who helped you. I need to be safe. Done. And money. I want $1 million RS. Done. He studied me for a long moment, sea urching for any sign of deception. But I had been playing this game for 25 years. I knew how to look someone in the eye and make them believe every word I said. The ledger is in the basement of St. Anthony's Cathedral, he said finally. There's a vault behind the confessional. You'll need this. He slid a small bronze key across the table. The vault requires 2 keys. I have one. Your mother has the other. ISTA read at the key, its surface worn smooth from years of CA rifle handling. My mother, she's been riding that key for a quarter of a century. She knew you'd need it eventually. The pieces clicked into place. My mother's sudden reappay rants, her confession, her warnings, it had all been leading to this moment. She had been playing a longer game than I had ever realized. She could have given me the key when I saw her. I said, why didn't she? She wanted you to find me first. She wanted to make sure you understood what you were getting into. Felix drained his glass and gestured for another. Your mother's not the woman you think she is, Vincent. She's been protecting you since before you were born. I know, I said quietly. She told me everything. No, she didn't tell you everything. There are things she can't tell you, because she doesn't know them herself. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Your mother was RT of the organization once. She was the one who helped your father escape. She sacrificed everything to keep you safe. Her mariage, her family, her entire life. I felt the blood drain from my face. That doesn't make sense. Why would she leave us? Because the organization would have killed you all. The only way to keep you safe was to make them think she didn't see a re. She became a target so they would focus on her instead of you. I sat back in the booth, my mind reeling. My mother had given up everything for me. She had let me hate her, let me believe she had abandoned us. All to protect me from a threat I didn't even know existed. She never told me. I said, my voice rely above a whispered, she couldn't. If you had known, you would have tried to protect her, and they would have used it against you both. Felix shook his head. Your mother is the bravest woman I've ever known, and she's been waiting a long time for you to come home. ISTA read at the key in my palm. A small piece of metal that held the key to everything. My father's death. My mother's sacrifice. The organization that had been pulling the strings for decades. Thank you, I said, for telling me the truth. Don't thank me yet. Felix's face was grim. Finding the ledger is just the beginning. Once you have it, you're going to have to decide what to do with it. And I promise you, there are people who will kill to keep it hidden. Let them try. I left the bar and drove to my mother's house, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. The truth was finally coming together, all the pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. But with each revelation came a new layer of pain, a new weight on my shoulders. She was waiting for me on the front porch, as if she had known I would be coming. The evening light caught the silver in her hair, and for a moment, she looked like a ghost from my past, Vincent. Her voice was calm, steady. You found Felix. I found him. I walked up the steps and sat down beside her. He told me everything. About the organization, about the ledger, about why you really left. She was silent for a long moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a second key, identical to the one I already ride. You need this, she said, placing it in my palm. It's been waiting for you for a long time. I closed my hand around the key, the two of them clinking together softly. I'm sorry, I said. For everything I said. For all the I hated you. Don't apologize, Vincent. You had every right to hate me. I made you believe I didn't see a re. I let you suffer alone when I should have been by your side. Her voice broke. I wanted to tell you so many times. But I was afraid. Afraid they would hurt you. Afraid you would never forgive me. Afraid I would lose you forever. You never lost me, I said. I just didn't understand. She reached out and took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. I need you to promise me something. When you find that ledger, when you have the power to destroy them, don't let it consume you. Don't become the monster they want you to be. I promise, I said. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew they were hollow. I had already become a monster long ago. I had killed, ordered deaths, destroyed lives. The only difference was that now I had a target that actually deserved my wrath. I spent the night in my childhood home, sleeping in the same room I had occupied as a boy. The posters on the walls were gone, replaced by faded wallpaper, but the memories remained. My father reading me bedtime stories. My mother saying, "King" in the kitchen. The sound of laughter that had once filled these rooms. In the morning, I drove to St. Anthony's Cathedral. The building loomed over the surrounding neighborhood, its spires reaching Tower RD heaven like fingers of stone. I had never been a religious man, but as I walked through the massive doors, I felt something stir in my chest, a sense of purpose, of destiny. The confessional was tucked away in a quiet corner, its wooden door polished to a high shine by decades of penitent hands. I slipped inside and knelt down, my knees pressing into the worn cushioned, "Forgive me, Father, for I am about to sin." I whispered. I found the hidden panel behind the altar, just as Felix had described. A small alcove, large enough to fit a man's hand, containing a steel door with 2 keyholes. I inserted both keys and turned them simultaneously. The door swung open. The ledger was exactly as promised, a thick, leather-bound book, its pages yellowed with age. I pulled it out and flipped through the first few pages, my eyes scanning the dense handwriting. Names, dates, transactions. The organization had been keeping track of everything for over 50 years. Every bribe, every murder, every politician bought, every judge corrupted, every life destroyed. And there, in the back, I found what I was looking for. A detailed account of my father's murder, the poison used, the date of his death, and the name of the woman who had ordered it. Victoria's name. I felt the blood rush to my head as I read the entry. She had been part of the organization since before I was born. She had targeted my father, seduced him, manipulated him. And when he became a liability, she had ended him without a second thought. She had done the same to me. But this time, I wasn't going to let her win. I closed the ledger and tucked it under my arm. The cathedral was empty, the morning mass long over, and I had the place to myself. I walked slowly Tower RD the exit, my mind racing with all the information I had just uncovered. I had the ledger. I had the proof. And I had a list of every single person who had ever been part of this organization. But I couldn't just walk into the organization's headquarters rooters and STA killing people. That would make me no different from them. No, I needed to be SMA rooter. More patient. More ruthless. I needed to be the accountant that I called my most trusted contact when I got back to my CAR. I need a list of everyone who's ever been associated with the Shadow Organization. Every name, every address, every family member. And I need it within 24 hours. Vincent, that kind of information doesn't come cheap. Money is no object. Get it done. The contact paused, then said, "You know they'll come after you once they find out what you're doing. Let them come. I'll be waiting." I spent the next 2 weeks gathering intel, building a network of informants, and preparing for the war that was coming. The ledger gave me everything I needed: names, dates, connections. The people I had once trusted, the people I had considered friends. All of them had been part of the organization's web. Marco was just the beginning. Victoria was the architect. But there were others. Powerful men in positions of authority. Judges, politicians, business leaders. Some of them I had even considered allies. All of them had been waiting for the right moment to destroy me. The first target was Ciarlo Moretti. He had provided the explosives for the attack, and he had done it willingly. He was at his estate in the Hamptons, surrounded by his family and his RDS. Completely unaware that I was coming. I brought 10 of my best men. We moved in at midnight, silent and deadly, and we took the house in less than 15 minutes. Ciarlo was sleeping in his bed when I read at his bedside, the ledger in my hand and a gun in my pocket. He woke up screaming, "Vincent, please, I was just following orders." "I know," I said calmly. "That's why you get to live. But I want you to deliver a message to your superiors. The accountant is back, and I'm going to settle every single debt that's ever been owed." He was sobbing now, begging for mercy. I left him there, tied to his bed, with a photo of the ledger resting on his chest. It was a message, a threat, a promise. The second target was a senator who had been on the organization's payroll for 20 years. He was at a fundraiser in Manhattan, surrounded by cameras and reporters, and half the city's elite. I walked in like I owned the place, because I did. Every person in that room owed me something, even if they didn't realize it. I found the senator by the bar, making small talk with a group of donors. I waited until he was alone, and then I approached him with a smile. "Senator, I'm so glad I found you. I've been wanting to have a word about your investments." He paled when he saw me. "Vincent Russo, what are you doing here?" Just making sure my friend's a re well taken ca re of. I slipped a folded piece of paper into his pocket. You might want to take a look at that when you get a moment. It's a copy of a certain ledger that's been making the rounds. His face went white. That's impossible. The ledger was destroyed years ago. Apparently not. I patted him on the shoulder and walked away. 3 days later, he was found dead in his apartment. The official cause was a Heir attack, but everyone in the organization knew the truth. They were cleaning house, eliminating the weak links. And I was only getting sta root. I went through the list methodically, systematically dismantling the organization one piece at a time. I exposed a judge who had taken bribes to send innocent men to prison. I leaked evidence of a police commissioner's involvement in a drug ring. I destroyed the reputation of a businessman who had been laundering money for the organization for years. Each move brought me closer to my ultimate goal, the head of the organization. The one person who had been pulling the strings from the very beginning. But every time I thought I was getting close, the trail went cold. The organization was like a hydra, cut off one head, and two more grew in its place. They had been operating for so long, had so many layers of protection, that even I was having trouble penetrating their inner circle. And then I got the call that it was Rosa. She was crying, her voice ragged with fear. Mr. Russo, they took Ria. They took my baby. Please, you have to help me. I felt the world stop. Who took her? I don't know. They came into the house. They said they would kill her if you didn't stop what you were doing. Where are you? At the house. They left a note. I'm on my way. I hung up and drove to the estate like my life depended on it. Because it did. Ria was the only innocent person in this entire war. The only person who had ever shown me kindness without expecting anything in return. That the house was in chaos when I arrived. Rosa was in the living room, her face streaked with TRS, clutching a piece of paper in her trembling hands. She handed it to me without a word. Vincent Russo, you have been a thorn in our side for too long. We have your little friend, and we will kill her unless you deliver the ledger to us by midnight. Come alone to the old Wari house on Pier 17. If we see anyone else, she dies. The note wasn't signed, but I knew who had written it. Victoria. She had been behind all of this from the beginning, and she was making her final move. Rosa, I said, my voice deadly calm. I'm going to bring her back. I promise you that. Mr. Russo, please be careful. I will. I left her there and drove to RD Pier 17, the ledger on the seat beside me, and a plan forming in my mind. They wanted the ledger. They wanted me to come alone. But I was never alone. I had an array. I had resources. And I had the element of surprise. The Wari house was RK, the air thick with salt and decay. I walked through the front doors, the ledger held high above my head, and I called out into the shadows, I'm here. Show yourself. Victoria emerged from the darkness, her face cold and beautiful, a gun in her hand. Behind her, two of her men held Ria, the little girl's face streaked with TRS. Vincent. Victoria's voice was smooth as silk. I was beginning to think you wouldn't come. I always keep my promises. I set the ledger down on a crate. You have what you want. Now let the girl go. Not yet. She laughed, a hollow sound. I've been waiting for this moment for a very long time. You have no idea how satisfying this is. I know exactly how satisfying it is, I said. Because I've been waiting for this moment too. I reached into my pocket and pressed a button. Instantly, the Wari house was flooded with light as my men SWA met in from every direction, their guns trained on Victoria and her guardias. Her face went white. You lied. You said you would come alone. You lied too, I said, stepping to RD her. You promised you would let the girl go. I guess we're both liars. Her guardias dropped their weapons, recognizing the futility of resistance. Victoria screamed, raising her gun to Ria, but I was faster. I grabbed her wrist and twisted, the gun falling to the floor with a clattered, Uncle Vince. Ria was running to me, her small ARMS wrapping around my legs. I knew you would come. Of course I came, I said, lifting her into my ARMS. I'll always come for you. Victoria was on her knees now, her face twisted with rage. You think this is over? The organization will never stop hunting you. They'll destroy everything you love. I don't think that, I said, looking down at her. I know that, but I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of anyone. Because I have something they don't. What's that? I knelt down, my face inches from hers. I have the truth. And the truth always wins. I gave the order, and my men took Victoria away. She would face justice for what she had done, for my father's murder, for Ria's kidnapping, for all the lives she had destroyed. But that was only the beginning. The organization was still out there, and they would keep coming. As long as I had the ledger, as long as I had the truth, they would never stop hunting me. That I see a ride Ria out of the Wari house and into the morning light. She was quiet in my ARMS, her small face pressed against my shoulder. Uncle Vince, she whispered. Are we safe now? Not yet, I admitted. But we will be. I promise you that. She nodded, trusting me completely. And in that moment, I knew exactly what I had to do. I would take the fight to them. I would tear down their empire piece by piece, expose their secrets to the world, and make sure they could never hurt anyone again. Because that was what the accountant did. He balanced the books. And there were a lot of debts that still needed to be paid. The Wari house on Pier 17 was still burning when I drove away. Ria asleep in the passenger seat, her small hand clutching the fabric of my jacket like she was afraid I would dissap AR. The explosion had been spectacular. Gas lines, stored chemicals, 100 years of decay. All of it went up in a fireball that lit up the sky like a second sunrise. I had wanted to watch Victoria burn. I had wanted to stand there and listen to her scream as the flames consumed the woman who had killed my father, seduced me, and tried to murder a 4-year-old girl. But Ria was in my ARMS, and she didn't need to see that. She didn't need to see any of it. Rosa was waiting at the estate, her face pale and drawn, her eyes red from hours of crying. She snatched Ria from my ARMS and held her so tight I thought she might break her. Thank you, she whispered, her voice cracking. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't thank me yet, I said. This isn't over. I had the ledger. I had the names. I had the beginning of a trail that led straight to the heart of the organization. But I had also just declared red war, and there was no going back. Victoria wasn't the head of the organization. She was a weapon, a tool, a cog in a much larger machine. Somewhere out there was the person who had been pulling the strings for half a century. The one who had orchestrated my father's murder, the one who had been manipulating events from the shadows. And I was going to find them. I locked myself in my office for 3 days, going through the ledger page by page, cross-referencing names and dates and transactions. The organization had been operating since the 1970s, rooting as a small network of corrupt officials and expanding into a global syndicate. They had their hands in everything: drugs, weapons, human trafficking, political corruption. They had bought judges, senators, police commissioners. They had killed anyone who got in their way. And at the top of it all was a single name. A name that Ape read in the ledger more than any other. A name that was connected to every major transaction, every significant decision, every life that had been destroyed. Giovanni Moretti. Not C.A. Rouleau. C.A. Rouleau had been a pawn, a distant cousin who had been given just enough power to be useful. Giovanni was the head of the entire family, the patriarch who had built the empire from nothing. He was a ghost, a legend, a man who had never been photographed, never been arrested, never been connected to any crime. And now I knew where he was hiding. The Moretti compound was in upstate New York, a sprawling estate surrounded by miles of forest and guarded by an army of loyal soldiers. It would be suicide to attack it directly. I needed a different approach. I needed to find his weakness. Root with his family. Giovanni had 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. The sons were both deeply involved in the organization, running operations in different parts of the country. But the daughter, Isabella, had been kept separate. She was 27 years old, educated at the finest schools, and completely oblivious to her father's true profession. She was also getting married in 2 weeks. The wedding was going to be the social event of the season, a lavish affair attended by the most powerful people in the country. It was also going to be the perfect opportunity for me to get close to Giovanni. I spent the next week planning. I created a new identity, complete with forged documents and a fabricated history. I infiltrated the wedding planning committee, positioning myself as a wealthy businessman from out of town who had been invited at the last minute. It wasn't difficult. Money opened doors, and I had plenty of it the day of the wedding arrived. and I drove to the estate in a rented Bentley, dressed in a custom Italian suit that cost more than most people made in a Heir. The compound was even more impressive than I had imagined. A massive mansion with sweeping jardins, a lake, and a chapel that looked like it had been transported from the Italian countryside. I had never felt more out of place in my life. The ceremony was beautiful, the reception even more so. I mingled with the guests, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries, all while keeping my eyes on the man of the hour. Giovanni Moretti was exactly what I had expected. Tall, silver-haired, impeccably dressed, with the calm confidence of a man who had never been challenged in his life. He was holding court at the bar, surrounded by his closest associates, laughing at some private joke. I approached him slowly, a glass of champagne in my hand and a smile on my face. "Mr. Moretti." I extended my hand. "I don't believe we've met." "Vincent Dima, RCO. I'm a friend of the family." He took my hand, his grip firm and confident. "Vincent Dima, RCO. I don't recall the name." "I'm not surprised. I'm a small fish in a very big pond. But I've always admired your work, sir. You've built an incredible empire." His eyes narrowed, just slightly. "My work is in real estate and investments. Nothing too exciting." "Of course." I smiled. "I was referring to your investments. Very impressive portfolio." He studied me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he laughed, a wah-rm, genial sound that would have fooled anyone who didn't know the truth. "Vincent Dima Arso," he said. "I like you. You have ambition. That's our A-re in this world. I Leah Ned from the best." I stayed at the Pa Rudy for another hour, making small talk and watching the crowd. But I had accomplished what I came for. I had put myself on Giovanni's radar, established a connection, and planted the seeds for the next phase of my plan. The next morning, I received a call from an unknown number, "Mr. Dima, RCO." The voice on the other end was familiar. "My father was very impressed with you last night. He'd like to have dinner with you tomorrow evening. Just the three of us." It was Isabella. I had spent the reception talking to her, charming her, making her believe I was nothing more than a wealthy, eligible bachelor. "Of course," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I'd be honored. My father doesn't invite people to dinner lightly, Mr. Dima, RCO. I hope you understand what an opportunity this is." "I understand perfectly." She gave me the address and time and hung up. I sat in my office, STA ring at my phone, a cold smile spreading across my face. Giovanni Moretti had invited me into his home. He had no idea who I really was, no idea that I was CA-ring a copy of the ledger in my jacket pocket, no idea that I had been planning this moment for months. I had him right where I wanted him. The dinner was at Giovanni's private residence, a penthouse in Manhattan that overlooked the entire city. I arrived exactly on time, dressed in another custom suit, and I was greeted by Isabella at the door. "Vincent." She kissed me on both cheeks. "I'm so glad you could make it. The pleasure is all mine." I handed her a bottle of expensive wine. A small gift. How thoughtful. She led me into the apartment, which was decorated with the kind of understated luxury that only true wealth could afford. "My father is just finishing up some business. He'll be with us shortly." We sat in the living room, making small talk while I studied the apartment. Every detail had been carefully chosen. The art on the walls, the furniture, the security cameras hidden in the corners. Giovanni Moretti was a man who trusted no one. He read 10 minutes later, looking relaxed and casual in a silk dressing gown. "Vincent," he said warmly, "I'm so glad you could come. I've been thinking about our conversation at the wedding." "As have I, Mr. Moretti. Please, call me Giovanni. We're family now, after all." I raised an eyebrow. He laughed, clapping me on the shoulder. "I saw the way you looked at my daughter last night. And I saw the way she looked at you. I've been in this business long enough to recognize a connection when I see one." I kept my expression neutral, but inside, I was reeling. This was better than I had hoped. He was already thinking of me as a potential son-in-law. If I could get Isabella to fall for me, I would have direct access to Giovanni and everything he knew. "Your daughter is a remarkable woman," I said seriously. "But I wouldn't presume, no presumptions." He waved a hand. "I'm a man who knows what he sees. And I see potential. You're ambitious, clever, and you have the right connections. You could go FAR in my organization." "My organization," I repeated. "I thought you were in real estate and investments." His eyes twinkled. That's what I tell the public. But you and I both know that the real money is in other things. He was testing me. I smiled and took a sip of my wine. I'm always interested in other things, I said. If you're willing to shari. He studied me for a long moment, and then he laughed again. I like you, Vincent. I really do. You're not afraid to speak your mind. That's our A-re in this world. I learned that from my father, I said. He always told me that the truth is the most powerful weapon we have. Your father. What does he do? He passed away, I said, my voice softening. 25 years ago. A heart attack. I'm sorry to hear that. It's difficult, losing a parent, especially when you never get to say goodbye. I met his eyes, and I let him see the pain I had ride for so long. But I've made peace with it. I know he would want me to move four-way road. He nodded, apparently satisfied with my answer. Good. That's good. A man who can move four-way RD is a man who can succeed. We had dinner, and I let the conversation unfold naturally. I talked about my business, about my plans for the future, about my desire to expand into new markets. He listened attentively, asking pointed questions, probing for weaknesses. But I was ready for him. I had been preparing for this conversation my entire life. By the end of the evening, Giovanni had made up his mind. Vincent, I'd like to offer you a job. A real job. Something that will take you to the next level. Money isn't an object for me, I said. I'm more interested in purpose. In meaning. Purpose, he repeated. I like that. What kind of purpose are you looking for? I leaned four-way RD, lowering my voice. I want to change the world. I want to build something that will outlast us all. Something that will make a real difference. He was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I think I can help you with that. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Giovanni took me under his wing, introducing me to his associates, showing me the inner workings of his organization. I played the role perfectly, eager, ambitious, loyal. I let him believe that I was exactly what he had been looking for. Isabella and I grew closer. She was smart, witty, and completely unaware of her father's true nature. I found myself enjoying her company more than I had expected, which made what I was about to do even more difficult. But I couldn't let myself get distracted. I had a mission, and that mission came first. One night, after a particularly long meeting, Giovanni invited me to his private study. I have something to show you, he said, his voice conspiratorial. Something I don't share with just anyone. He led me to a bookshelf and pressed a hidden switch. The bookshelf swung open, revealing a hidden room filled with papers, computers, and a massive map of the city. This is the heart of the operation, he said. Everything I've built, everything I've achieved, it all starts here. I looked at the map, at the red dots marking locations across the city. Some of them I recognized, buildings I owned, businesses I controlled. Others were unfamiliar. Every major operation in the city runs through this room, he continued. I have my hand in everything. The government, the police, the courts, even the rival families. They all answer to me. Impressive, I said. How long have you been building this? 40 years, he said proudly. 40 years of rifle planning. And I'm not done yet. I have a plan that will take this city to the next level. And I want you to be part of it. He handed me a file. I opened it and read the contents, and I felt my blood run cold. It was a plan to assassinate every person who had ever testified against the organization. Witnesses, informants, even some law enforcement officials. All of them were going to be eliminated in a single coordinated attack. I can't do this, I said, my voice rely above a whisper. Giovanni's expression shifted. What did you say? I can't be part of this. I met his eyes. This is wrong. These people are just trying to do their jobs. Wrong, he laughed, but there was no RMTH in it. Let me tell you something about right and wrong, Vincent. In this business, there is no right and wrong. There's only power. And I have all of it. Not anymore. I said that. I pulled out my phone and pressed a button. Instantly, the room filled with the sound of sirens. Giovanni's face went pale. What did you do? I called the FBI, I said calmly. They've been waiting for this moment for a long time. You son of a bitch, he lunged at me, but I was faster. I grabbed his ARM and twisted it behind his back, forcing him to his knees. You killed my father, I said, my voice ice cold. You poisoned him. You made it look like a heart attack. And then you sent your people after me, after my family, after everyone I've ever loved. I don't know what you're talking about, Vincent Russo, I said. My real name is Vincent Russo, and I've been waiting 25 years for this moment. His eyes went wide with recognition. The accountant. You're the accountant. That's right. I shoved him four-way RD, and he fell to the floor. And I'm here to settle a debt. The FBI stormed in moments later, guns drawn, shouting orders. I stepped back and let them take Giovanni away, his screams echoing through the penthouse as he was dragged out of the room. Isabella App read in the doorway, her face white with shock. Vincent, what's going on? Why are they taking my father? I walked Tawa RD her, my heat RT pounding in my chest. Isabella, I need to tell you something. Something that might change the way you see me. Vincent, your SCA ring me. I'm not who you think I am, I said. I'm not Vincent Dima RCO. My real name is Vincent Russo, and I've been working to bring your father to justice for a very long time. She STA read at me, her eyes filling with TRS. You used me. You used me to get to my father. Your father is a murderer. He's killed dozens of people, including my own father. I had to do this. Get out, she said, her voice breaking. Get out of my sight. I nodded and walked away. It was the rightest thing I had ever done, but it was the right thing. And as I left the building, I knew that this was just the beginning. Giovanni Moretti was in custody. The organization was in chaos, and I had finally avenged my father's death. But there were still debts to be paid, and I was just getting STA root. The FBI took Giovanni Moretti away in cuffs, and I stood in the wreckage of his penthouse, watching the agents tear through his hidden room like vultures picking at a corpse. They would find everything: the plans, the names, the evidence that would put him away for the rest of his life. I had given them the ledger, given them YARS of CA fully documented crimes, and they were finally doing what they should have done decades ago. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt emptied. Isabella's face haunted me. The way she had looked at me, the way her voice had cracked when she told me to get out. She was innocent in all of this, a pawn in her father's game, just like so many others. And I had used her, manipulated her, broken her trust. That I walked out of the building and into the cold night air, my breath forming clouds in the darkness. The city was still alive, still pulsing with the energy that had made me fall in love with it so many years ago. But everything had changed. I had changed. The next morning, the news was everywhere. Giovanni Moretti had been arrested. The organization was being dismantled. The FBI was holding press conferences, taking credit for the bust, patting themselves on the back for a job well done. They didn't mention me. They didn't mention the accountant. That was the deal I had made, and I intended to keep it. I went back to my estate and locked myself in my office. The ledger was gone now, in the hands of the authorities, but I had made copies. I had backups, hidden in safe places around the city. I had insurance. Rosa knocked on the door a few hours later, CA ryeing a tray of coffee and pastries. Mr. Russo, you haven't eaten all day. I'm not hungry. You need to take CA of yourself. She set the tray down on my desk and looked at me with those perceptive eyes. I heard about what happened. About Mr. Moretti. Giovanni Moretti is in custody, I said. It's over. Is it? She sat down across from me. I've been with you for 6 years, Mr. Russo. I've seen you fight YARS, settle scores, destroy enemies. But I've never seen you like this. Like what? Like you've lost something. I looked at her, and for a moment, I saw Ria in her face. The same resilience, the same quiet strength, the same ability to see through my walls. That I used someone, I said. A woman who didn't deserve it. She trusted me, and I betrayed her. You did what you had to do. Did I? I leaned back in my chair. I could have found another way. I could have been honest with her, told her who I really was. But I chose to use her instead. Rosa was silent for a moment. Then she reached across the desk and took my hand. Mr. Russo, I don't pretend to understand your world. I'm just a maid. But I know one thing. The people who survive in this life are the ones who can live with their choices. You made a choice, and you have to live with it. But you also have to move four-way road. She was right. I couldn't change what I had done. I could only RN from it and become better. Thank you, Rosa, I said. I needed to hear that. Now eat your breakfast. She stood up and walked Tawa RD the door. Ria wants to see you. She's been asking about you all morning. I smiled for the first time in days. Tell her I'll be down in a few minutes. Ria was in the GA den, chasing butterflies with the reckless abandon of a child who had no idea how close she had come to death. She spotted me from across the lawn and came running, her small arms wrapping around my legs. Uncle Vince. She looked up at me with those enormous eyes. Did you catch all the bad people? Not all of them, I admitted. But I caught the worst one. Good. She nodded seriously. Now we can be safe. I knelt down and looked at her. Ria, I need to ask you something. When you hear people's thoughts, what does it feel like? She scrunched her face in concentration. It's like a song. Everyone has their own song. Some songs loud and angry. Some songs quiet and sad. Yours is. She paused, thinking. Yours is getting quieter. You used to be so loud, Uncle Vince. Now you're almost silent. I felt a chill run down my spine. She could see inside me, see the change that had been happening since I had met her. The walls I had built were crumbling. Is that a good thing? I asked. She nodded. Quiet songs, happy songs. I laughed, a genuine laugh that surprised me. You're a remarkable little girl, Ria. I know. She grinned. Mama tells me that every day. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. I met with lawyers, gave statements to the FBI, and watched from a distance as Giovanni Moretti was tried and convicted. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The news coverage was relentless, a constant reminder of everything I had sacrificed to get to this point. Isabella testified against her father. I watched her on the news, her face pale and composed, her voice steady as she described the crime she had witnessed. She had chosen to do the right thing, even though it had cost her everything. I wanted to reach out to her, to apologize for what I had done, but I knew it would only make things worse. Some wounds couldn't be healed by words. Then the letters root coming. At first, they were anonymous. Just a single page, typed on a plain sheet of paper, with a single sentence. You think you've won, but you haven't. I ignored them. I had received threats before, hundreds of them. They were just noise, the desperate attempts of defeated enemies to regain some sense of control. But then the letters root getting more specific. They mentioned Rosa. They mentioned Ria. They mentioned details about my security that only someone with inside knowledge could have. That the organization wasn't destroyed. It had just gone underground, waiting for the right moment to strike back. That I called a meeting with my most trusted lieutenants. We have a problem, I said, spreading the letters across the table. Someone is watching us. Someone who knows our routines, our weaknesses. We should increase security, one of them said. Double the Gua RDS, lock down the estate. That won't be enough. I shook my head. They're not going to attack us directly. They're going to go after the people we see about. That's how they'll try to break us. Then what do we do? I looked at the letters, at the refull phrasing that had been designed to unsettle me. There was only one person I knew who had that kind of patience, that kind of precision. Give me everything you can on Felix DeLuca, I said. I need to know where he is, what he's doing, and who he's been talking to. The CRCH didn't take long. Felix had been off the grid for weeks. DeSap, a ring shortly after Giovanni's arrest. His house was empty, his bank accounts drained. He had vanished like a ghost. But ghosts always left traces. I found him in a safe house in New Jersey, a nondescript building in a nondescript neighborhood. He was sitting in the DRK, a glass of whiskey in his hand, watching the door like he expected death to walk through it at any moment. Vincent. He didn't sound surprised to see me. I wondered when you'd find me. You've been feeding information to the organization, I said. Everything I did, every move I made, you told them about it. He laughed, a hollow sound. You think I had a choice? They have my daughter, Vincent. They've been holding her for months. If I didn't do what they said, they would kill her. I read at him, the anger slowly draining out of me. Why didn't you tell me? Because there was nothing you could do. The organization is everywhere. They have eyes and EARS in every corner of this city. If you tried to save her, they would have killed us both. What's her name? Angela. She's 23 years old. She was studying law at Columbia before they took her. His voice cracked. I haven't seen her in 6 months. I don't even know if she's still alive. I sat down across from him. Where are they holding her? I don't know. They move her every few weeks. I only get updates when they want me to do something. The pieces clicked into place. The letters, the threats, the constant surveillance. It was all designed to keep me off balance, to make me paranoid, to make me doubt everyone around me. They were using Felix's daughter as leverage, the same way Victoria had used Heir. And they would keep doing it, keep finding new ways to hurt me, until I was broken. I wasn't going to let that happen. Tell me everything you know, I said. Every contact, every address, every detail you can remember. We're going to find your daughter, Felix, and we're going to destroy the people who took her. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a desperate hope. Why would you help me after everything I did? Because you're not my enemy, I said. And neither is your daughter. The people who took her are my enemies. And I always settle my debts. The CRCH took 2 weeks. I pulled every resource, called in every favor, leaned on every contact I had. The organization was good at hiding, but they weren't good enough that we found Angela in a Warri house in Brooklyn, warried by a team of Med men who had no idea they were about to die. I led the assault myself, moving through the darkness with the precision of a surgeon. The Guardians never stood a chance. Within 5 minutes, they were all on the ground, and I was standing in front of a metal door that had been bolted from the outside. I kicked it open and found Angela inside, huddled in the corner. She was thin and pale, her eyes wide with fear, but she was alive. Angela, I said, kneeling down. Your father sent me. We're here to take you home. She read at me, her body trembling. Is this a trick? No trick. I held out my hand. You're safe now. I promise. She took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong, and I helped her to her feet. My men swept the Warri house, making sure there were no more threats. I led Angela outside, where Felix was waiting with tears streaming down his face. Angela. He ran to her and wrapped his arms around her. Oh God, I thought I'd lost you, Dad. She was crying too now, her face buried in his chest. I'm okay. I'm okay. I stood back and watched them, a strange feeling washing over me. This was what I had been fighting for. This was why I had become the accountant. Not for the power, not for the money, but for moments like this. For the chance to bring people back together, to make things right. Felix looked at me over his daughter's shoulder. Thank you, he said. I don't know how I can ever repay you. You already have, I said. You gave me the ledger. You gave me the truth. That was enough. He nodded, unable to speak. I left them there, in the middle of the Warri house, and walked back to my car. The sun was rising over the city, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. It was beautiful. It was hopeful. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was doing something right. But I knew it wasn't over. The organization still had its tentacles everywhere. They would regroup, find new leaders, and come after me again. They would never stop. I had to find a way to destroy them for good. I had to go deeper, Heir. I had to find the source, the heart of the organization, and cut it out completely. I got in my car and drove back to the estate. Rosa was in the GA den with Heir, the two of them laughing together in the morning light. I watched them for a moment, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. Uncle Vince. Heir spotted me and came running. Where did you go? I had to help someone, I said, picking her up. Someone who needed me. Did you catch more bad people? I caught enough for now, I said. But there's always more work to do. She nodded, accepting my answer without question. I'll help you, she said seriously. I'll tell you what the bad people are rethinking. I laughed and hugged her tight. I hope you never have to do that again, little one. But if you do, I'll be right there beside you. The phone rang later that day. I answered it, expecting another threat, another letter, another sign that the organization was still hunting me. But it wasn't. That it was my mother. Her voice was weak, rely above a whispered, Vincent, I need to see you. It's important. Mother, what's wrong? Just come. Please. I drove to Queens, my heart pounding in my chest. She was in bed when I arrived, her face pale and drawn, a nurse sitting beside her. It's your heart, isn't it? I said. You've been hiding this from me. She nodded weakly. I didn't want to worry you. You had so much on your plate. I always have time for you. I sat down beside her and took her hand. What did you need to tell me? There's something else about the organization, she said. Something I never told anyone. Not even Felix. What is it? She reached under her pillow and pulled out a photograph. It was old, yellowed with age, showing a group of people standing in front of a building I recognized. That's the old family home, I said. Who are all those people? The founders, she said. The people who STA root the organization. I was there, Vincent. I was one of them. I STA read at her, my mind reeling. You were RT of the organization. I was young and stupid, she said, TRS streaming down her face. I thought I was fighting for something important. By the time I realized what I had gotten into, it was too late to leave. I sat back, trying to process what she had just told me. My mother, the woman I had been protecting, the woman who had sacrificed everything for me. She had been RT of the very organization I had spent my life fighting to. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. Because I didn't want you to see me the way I saw myself. A monster. I looked at her, at the TRS on her face, at the fear in her eyes. And I made a decision to, you're not a monster, I said. You made a mistake, just like everyone else. But you spent the rest of your life trying to make up for it. That takes courage. She looked at me, her eyes wide with surprise. You're not angry. I'm tired of being angry, I said. Tired of hating people for things they did in the past. I want to move four-way road. I want to build something better. I squeezed her hand and stood up. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to destroy the organization once and for all. And when I do, you're going to be there to see it. I promise you that. She smiled, a weak smile, but a genuine one. I love you, Vincent. I always have. I love you too, Mother. I left the house and drove back to Manhattan, the photograph burning a hole in my pocket. I had one more lead, one more piece of the puzzle. The founders. They were still alive, still pulling the strings from the shadows. And I was going to find them, confront them, and make them pay for everything they had done. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The photograph sat on my desk like a ghost from the past. The faces of the founders STA ring up at me with frozen smiles. I had spent hours studying it, memorizing every detail, every face, every shadow. My mother was there, young and beautiful, standing in the back row with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. But she wasn't the one I was looking for. There were 6 other people in the photograph. 6 faces that had been haunting me since I first saw them. These were the people who had built the organization, who had spent decades accumulating power and wealth and influence. These were the people who had ordered my father's murder, who had used Victoria as a weapon, who had tried to destroy everything I loved. They were old now, probably in their 80s or 90s. But they were still alive, still powerful, still pulling the strings from their mansions and penthouses and private islands. I needed to find them, and I needed to make them pay. My first lead came from an unexpected source. Felix DeLuca, grateful for his daughter's rescue, had been digging through his old contacts, trying to find anything that might help me. There's a man named Salvatore Bianchi, he said over the phone. He was one of the founders. He's been living in retirement for the past 15 years, but he still has connections to the organization. If anyone knows where the others are, it's him. Where do I find him? He has a villa in Tuscany. He spends most of his time there, surrounded by his family and his security. It won't be easy to get to him. Nothing worth doing ever is. I made the arrangements within 24 hours. Private jet, forged documents, a team of my most trusted men. I told Rosa I would be gone for a few days and left Ria with a promise to bring her back a gift. The flight to Italy was long, but I spent it planning. I had studied Salvatore Bianchi's life, his habits, his weaknesses. He was a creature of routine, a man who believed his wealth and power made him untouchable. He was wrong. The villa was everything I had expected, a sprawling estate on a hillside, surrounded by olive groves and viney RDS, ride by an reme of a remed man. I watched it from a distance, studying the patterns of the RDS, the timing of the patrols, the weak points in the security. There were no weak points. The place was a fortress. I needed a different approach. I went to the local village and began asking questions. Salvatore Bianchi was a beloved figure in the community, a generous benefactor who had funded schools and hospitals and churches. Everyone I talked to spoke of him with admiration and respect. No one would help me. No one would betray him. Except one person. Her name was Elena. She was a young woman who worked in the village market, selling fresh produce and flowers. I had noticed her watching me, her eyes filled with a curiosity that went beyond simple interest. You're not a tourist, she said when I approached her stall. You're here for Signore Bianchi. What makes you say that? I see the way you look at his villa. You're not admiring the view. You're planning something. I studied her, trying to decide if she was a threat or an opportunity. And if I am. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. He's my father. I felt the world tilt. Salvatore Bianchi is your father. My mother was his mistress. He acknowledged me, provided for me, but he never truly accepted me. I'm a reminder of his mistakes. Her eyes flashed with anger. I know what he is. I know what he's done. And I've been waiting a long time for someone to hold him accountable. You want to help me? I want to help you destroy him. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a set of keys. He's having a dinner party tomorrow night. The entire family will be there. All of his children, his grandchildren, his closest associates. I can get you inside. I looked at the keys, at the determination in her eyes. This was the break I had been waiting for. What do you want in return? Nothing. Just the satisfaction of watching him fall. The next night, I was Elena's guest at the dinner party. I wore a suit I had bought in Florence, a carefully constructed identity as a wealthy businessman from Milan. Elena introduced me to her father, her voice steady, her smile perfect. Salvatore Bianchi was an old man, his face lined with age, his eyes sharp and calculating. He shook my hand with a grip that was still surprisingly strong, and he studied me with the wariness of a man who had survived for decades by trusting no one. Enzo Rossi, he said, repeating the name I had given. I don't recall the name. I'm a small fish, I said, smiling. I'm hoping to change that. Ambition. He nodded approvingly. I like that. The dinner was a lavish affair, course after course of exquisite food and expensive wine. I mingled with the guests, making small talk, building my cover. But all the while, I was watching Salvatore, studying his movements, his mannerisms, his weaknesses. He had a habit of retreating to his study after dinner, a private room where he could escape the noise of his family. It was the perfect opportunity. I waited until the party was winding down, until the guests were drunk and distracted. Then I slipped away from the crowd and made my way to the study. Salvatore was sitting in a leather A-room chair, a glass of brandy in his hand, a ring at a painting on the wall. He didn't turn when I entered. Enzo Rossi, he said. Or should I call you Vincent Russo? I froze. How did you know? I've been in this business for 60 years, Vincent. I know a threat when I see one. You're Elena, she's not as clever as she thinks. I've known about her little rebellion for years. So you've been expecting me. I've been expecting someone. It was only a matter of time before you found your way here. He took a sip of his brandy. Sit down. I'm not going to try to kill you. I'm too old for that kind of nonsense. I sat down across from him, my hand resting on the gun in my jacket pocket. You killed my father. I ordered his death. There's a difference. I don't get my hands dirty anymore. I haven't for decades. Why did you do it? He was silent for a moment. Then he set down his glass and leaned forward. Your father was a good man. A decent man. He had principles. That's what made him dangerous. In our world, decency is a weakness. It makes you unpredictable, unreliable. It makes you a liability. So you murdered him. Because he was going to expose us. He had found out about the organization, about the corruption, about the crimes we had committed. He was going to go to the authorities. I couldn't allow that. I felt a cold rage building inside me. You could have let him leave. You could have let him walk away. And let him destroy everything I had built. He shook his head. You don't understand, Vincent. This isn't about good or evil. It's about survival. I did what I had to do to protect my family, my legacy, my life's work. Your legacy is built on blood, I said. On murder and corruption and the suffering of innocent people. You think I don't know that? He laughed, a bitter sound. Every day I look at my life and wonder if it was worth it. I have all the money I could ever want. I have a family that loves me. I have power and influence and respect. And I would trade it all for one thing. What? Peace. His voice cracked. I would trade it all for a single night of peace. But I can never have that. Because I know what I've done. I know the faces of the people I've destroyed. And they haunt me. I read at him, seeing the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of decades of sin pressing down on his shoulders. This was the man who had ordered my father's murder. This was the man who had destroyed my family, my childhood, my innocence. And he was suffering. Not because of me, not because of any punishment, but because of his own guilt. You're not going to kill me, Salvatore said suddenly. You could have done it already, but you haven't. You're not a murderer, Vincent. Not like me. I was silent for a long moment. He was right. I had killed before, killed many times, but always in self-defense, always to protect myself, or the people I loved. I had never killed in cold blood. You're going to prison, I said finally. You're going to live out the rest of your life in a cell. And you're going to die there, alone and forgotten. I was already alone, he said. I've been alone for a long time. I stood up and walked toward the door. Elena, I called out. Come in. She entered the room, her face pale but determined. In her hand was a phone, recording everything we had just said. You recorded everything, Salvatore said, his face going white. You betrayed me. You betrayed me first, she said coldly. You stole my mother's youth, my childhood, my future. You gave me everything except the one thing I wanted. Your acceptance. I gave you everything you could ever want. You gave me money, she said. But you never gave me love. You never gave me respect. You never gave me anything that mattered. Salvatore slumped in his chair, all the fight draining out of him. What do you want from me? I want you to confess, I said. I want you to tell the authorities everything. Every name, every crime, every secret. I want you to tear down the organization you built with your own hands. He read at me, his eyes filled with a profound sadness. And if I refuse, then Elena sends this recording to every news outlet in the world. She gives it to the police, to the FBI, to everyone who's been hunting you for decades. Your legacy will be destroyed. Your family will be ruined. Your entire life's work will be erased. He was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I'll do it, he said. I'll give you everything. The confession took 3 hours. Salvatore named names, gave locations, described crimes in excruciating detail. I recorded every word, every admission, every piece of evidence that would bring down the organization for good. When it was over, I thanked Elena and left the villa. She was staying behind to watch her father's arrest. To see justice served after all these years arrest, I flew back to New York with the confession on my phone, the evidence I needed to destroy the founders once and for all. The FBI was waiting for me when I landed, and I handed everything over to them. It was done. The organization was finished. The founders were going to prison. The victims would finally have justice. I went home to my estate, exhausted but relieved. Rosa was waiting in the kitchen, a cup of coffee in her hand. Mr. Russo, she said, her voice soft. You look terrible. I feel terrible. I collapsed into a chair. But it's over. For now. I looked at her, and I saw the worry in her eyes. She was right. The organization might be destroyed, but there would always be new threats, new enemies, new battles to fight. Rosa, I said suddenly. What do you want out of life, really want? She was surprised by the question. I want Heir to be safe and happy. I want her to have opportunities one never had. I want her to grow up in a world where she doesn't have to be afraid. I nodded slowly. That's what I want too. It was the first time I had admitted it, even to myself. All the power, all the money, all the revenge. None of it mattered if I couldn't create a better world for the people I loved. I stood up and walked to the Garden. Heir was there, chasing fireflies in the twilight, her laughter echoing through the evening air. I watched her, and I made a decision. I was going to change my life. I was going to become something other than the accountant. I was going to become a protector, a guardian, a force for good. The war wasn't over. It would never be over. But I had finally found something worth fighting for. And I would fight for it until my last breath. The week after Salvatore Bianchi's confession, the world changed. I sat in my office, watching the news on a loop, as the FBI rolled up the organization's remaining leadership in a series of coordinated raids across 3 continents. The founders were arrested. Their associates were arrested. Their assets were frozen, their networks dismantled, their carefully constructed empire reduced to rubble. It was everything I had ever wanted. And yet, I felt nothing. I turned off the television and read at my reflection in the arcade screen. The face looking back at me was older than I remembered, lined with years of stress and violence and loss. I had spent so long fighting this war that I had forgotten what it felt like to live without it. Heir found me in the study, her small feet padding silently across the carpet. She climbed into my lap without asking, settling against my chest like she belonged there. Uncle Vince, she said, you're sad again. I'm not sad, little one. I'm thinking. About what? I looked down at her, at the innocence in her eyes, and I wondered how to explain the weight I was carrying. How could I tell a 4-year-old that I had spent my entire life fighting monsters, and now that the monsters were gone, I had no idea who I was supposed to be. I'm thinking about the future, I said finally. About what comes next. Can I help? I smiled despite myself. You already help. Just by being here. She nodded seriously. Mama says that's what family does. We help each other just by being together. Your mother is a very wise woman, I know. She tells me that every day the days that followed were strange. The organization was gone, but the legacy of violence remained. I received threats from holdouts, from loyalists who refused to accept defeat. My security team stayed on high alert, and I kept a gun within reach at all times. But the threats were hollow. The organization was shattered, and the people who had once read me now had nothing to fear at all. I asked a route to withdraw from the business, delegating more and more of my responsibilities to my lieutenants. I spent more time at home, more time with Rosa and Maria, more time trying to figure out who I was without the war. It was Rosa who finally confronted me about it. Mr. Russo, she said one evening, finding me in the Heir den. You've been moping for weeks. It's time to snap out of it. I'm not moping, I said defensively. I'm processing. Processing what you won. You won the war. You should be celebrating. I shook my head. I don't know how to celebrate. I've been fighting for so long that I've forgotten what peace feels like. She sat down beside me on the bench. Then you need to RN. You need to find something to live for other than revenge. I have things to live for. I have you. I have Maria. You have us, yes. But you don't let us in. You keep us at arm's length, like we're just part of your protection plan. That's not true, isn't it? She met my eyes. When's the last time you had dinner with us? When's the last time you played with Maria or just sat and talked with me? I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. She was right. I had been so focused on the war that I had forgotten how to be present in the lives of the people who read about me. I'm sorry, I said finally. I didn't realize I was doing that. You've been doing it for 6 years. I just didn't want to push you. She reached over and took my hand. You're not alone, Mr. Russo. You don't have to carry all of this by yourself. I looked at her hand on mine, and I felt something shift inside me. A crack in the armor I had built around my heart. Rosa, I said slowly. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why do you stay with all the danger, all the chaos, all the threats? Why do you stay with me? She was silent for a long moment. Then she smiled. Because you're a good man. Maybe you don't see it. Maybe you don't want to see it. But you You took me in when I had nothing. You gave me a home, a job, a chance to raise my daughter in safety. You saved her life, more than once. And you've never once asked for anything in return. Except loyalty. I said, loyalty isn't a price. It's a gift. And you've reneged it. I felt the TRS welling up in my eyes, and I blinked them away. I don't deserve you. Either of you. That's not for you to decide. We sat in silence for a while, watching the stars are in the darkening sky. It was the most peaceful moment I had experienced in YRS. The next morning, I made a decision. I was going to change my life. I was going to become the man Rosa and Maria deserved. I root by selling the business. The empire I had built, the empire I had spent decades fighting for, I gave it up. I handed it over to my most trusted lieutenants, men who had been with me from the beginning, who had reneged the right to say RRY on my legacy. They were shocked, of course. They had never expected me to walk away. Vincent, are you sure about this? My oldest friend asked. You built this from nothing. You could be the most powerful man in the city. I've been the most powerful man in the city, I said. It's overrated. He studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. If that's what you want, I'll make sure it happens. It's what I want. With the business gone, I had nothing but time. I spent it with Rosa and Maria, learning what it meant to be part of a family. We had dinners together, watched movies, played games in the Heir den. I taught Maria how to ride a bike, and she taught me how to laugh again. It was strange, not having the weight of the empire on my shoulders. I woke up in the morning without a plan, without a list of enemies to destroy, without a war to fight. I was just Vincent, a man with a past, but also a future. But the past wasn't done with me yet. One afternoon, a package arrived at the estate. It was addressed to me, with no return address, no identifying my RKS. My security team checked it for explosives, for poison, for anything that could be a threat. It was safe. Just a single folder, filled with photographs. I opened it in my office, my heart pounding. The photographs showed the founders, but they also showed other people. People I had never seen before. People who were clear RLY pa RT of the organization's upper echelon. And at the bottom of the folder was a note. Typewritten, with no signature. You destroyed the generals, but the A remains. There are those who will rebuild. There are those who will come for you. You cannot kill what you cannot see. I read at the note, a cold dread washing over me. The organization wasn't dead. It had just gone into hiding, waiting for the right moment to strike back. I needed to tell someone. I needed to RN the authorities, to prepare my security team. 2. The phone rang. I answered it on the first ringed, Vincent Russo. The voice on the other end was familiar, but I couldn't place it. You don't know me, but I know you. I know everything about you. Who is this, a friend? Or perhaps an enemy? That depends on what you do next. What do you want? I want to offer you a choice. You can continue to fight. You can try to hunt down the remnants of the organization, to destroy them once and for all. Or you can walk away. You can disappear, change your identity, start a new life. The choice is yours. I gripped the phone. What kind of offer is that? The only kind that matters. You've done enough, Vincent. You've avenged your father. You've destroyed the founders. The war is over. Let it stay that way. And if I don't, then you'll become a target again. And this time, the people you love will be the ones who suffer. The line went dead. I sat in my office. Ring at the phone, feeling the walls closing in around me. The fight was never going to end. There would always be someone else, some new threat, some new enemy. The organization would keep regenerating, keep finding new leaders, keep coming back for more. Unless I made sure they couldn't. Route planning that night. I used every resource, every contact, every piece of information I had accumulated over the years. I tracked down the people who had sent the package, who had made the call, who were still trying to rebuild the organization's shattered empire. It took 3 months. 3 months of sleepless nights, of endless investigations, of dangerous meetings with people who could have been allies or enemies. And at the end of it, I found the one person who could end it all. She called herself the architect. She was the mastermind behind the organization's reconstruction, the person who had been pulling the strings from the shadows for years. She had been operating independently of the founders, waiting for them to fall so she could take over. I found her in a penthouse in Chicago, surrounded by RDS and technology and the trappings of immense wealth. She was younger than I expected, probably in her RLY 30s, with the RK hair and cold eyes that had seen too much violence to be surprised by anything. Vincent Russo. She didn't look up from her computer as I entered. I was wondering when you'd find me. You knew I was coming. Of course. I made sure you would. She gestured to a chair. Sit down. We have a lot to discuss. I didn't sit. Why did you send the package in me? Because I wanted to see what you would do. She finally looked up, and there was something like admiration in her eyes. I've been watching you for years, Vincent. Everything you've accomplished, every enemy you've destroyed, every life you've saved. You're remarkable. Spare me the flattery. What do you want? I want to offer you a deal. She leaned forward, her eyes locked on mine. The organization has been in chaos since the founders' arrest. I'm trying to rebuild, but I need a partner. Someone with your experience, your connections, your ruthlessness. I laughed, the hollow sound. You want me to join you. I want you to lead with me. Together, we could build something bigger than anything the founders ever imagined. Something that would last for generations. And if I refuse, she smiled, then I'll destroy everything you love. Rooting with the little girl. I felt the blood drain from my face. You leave her out of this. She's already in this, Vincent. She's been in this since the day she warned you about the bombs. She's a threat to everything we're building, and I can't allow that. I took a step toward her, my hand going to my gun. You will not touch her. I don't have to touch her. Her smile widened. I have people everywhere. People who are loyal to me, not to you. If I give the order, she'll be dead within the hour. I stood there, frozen, my mind racing. She was bluffing. She had to be bluffing. But I couldn't take that risk. Not with Riyadh. What do you want? I said finally. Tell me what you want, and I'll consider it. Consider it, she laughed. You don't have a choice, Vincent. Either you join me, or everyone you love dies. I read at her, the weight of her threat settling over me like a shroud. I had fought so hard, sacrificed so much, and now I was right back where I used to root. But I wasn't the same man I had been. I had Leah reneged something over the IRS. I had Leah reneged that the only way to win against evil was to become something stronger, something better. Fine, I said. I'll join you. Her smile widened. I knew you would make the right choice. On one condition. Name it. Maria and Rosa, never to be touched. They're to be protected, not threatened. If anything happens to them, I'll burn your entire empire to the ground. I don't see who you work for, how powerful you think you are. I will destroy you. She studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. Agreed. I walked out of the penthouse, the deal made, the trap set. I had agreed to join the architect, but I had no intention of following through. I had finally found a way to end this war for good. I was going to infiltrate her organization, Leah in her secrets, and destroy her from the inside. It would take time. It would take patience. It would take every ounce of strength I had, but I would do it. For Maria. For Rosa. For everyone who had ever been hurt by the organization. The accountant was back in business. And this time, he wasn't stopping until every last one of them was gone. I walked out of the architect's penthouse with a dead man's smile on my face, the weight of my betrayal already pressing down on my shoulders. She had given me access codes, a schedule of meetings, a list of her most trusted lieutenants. She thought she had bought me, body and soul. She had no idea I was already planning her destruction. The first thing I did when I got back to New York was call my mother. She had been released from the hospital the week before. Her HRT condition stabilized, but still fragile. I needed her to understand what I was about to do, even if I couldn't tell her all the details. Vincent. Her voice was weak, but steady. You sound different. I'm fine, Mother. But I need you to do something for me. I need you to go away for a while. Take a vacation, anywhere you want. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Vincent, what's happening? Nothing I can't handle. But I need to know you're safe. I paused, choosing my words carefully. There's a woman who's trying to rebuild the organization. She's threatened Rosa and Maria. I'm going to stop her, but I need to play along for now. I need to pretend to be on her side. My mother was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I've seen that look in your eyes before. You're going to do something reckless. I'm going to do something necessary. Please, Mother, just trust me. I've always trusted you, Vincent. Even when you didn't trust me. I felt a lump form in my throat. Thank you. I hung up and called Rosa into my office. She came with Maria in tow, the little girl clutching a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. Mr. Russo, Rosa said, her voice fully neutral. You wanted to see me. I need to tell you something. I knelt down in front of Maria. Little one, I need you to listen fully. I'm going to be away for a while. I need you to stay with your mother and do exactly what she says. No matter what. Are you going to catch more bad people? Maria asked. Yes. But I need you to be brave for me. She nodded seriously. I'm always brave. I know you are. That's why I love you. I looked up at Rosa. I've made arrangements. There's a safe house in the countryside, far from the city. You and Maria will be protected there. No one will know where you are. Mr. Russo, what have you gotten yourself into? Nothing I can't get out of. But I need to know you're safe. Please. For me. She read at me, her eyes searching my face. Then she nodded slowly. Come back to us, she said. Promise me you'll come back. I promise. I watched them leave. Rosa rying Maria in her arms, the little girl waving goodbye over her mother's shoulder. It was the hardest thing I had ever done, sending them away. But it was also the only way to keep them safe. With Rosa and Maria gone, I had nothing left to lose. And that made me the most dangerous man the architect had ever met. The next few weeks were a delicate dance of deception. I attended meetings with the architect and her lieutenants, offering strategic advice that sounded helpful but was actually designed to weaken their operations. I fed them information about my old business contacts, fully curated to lead them into traps. I smiled and nodded and pretended to be loyal while secretly undermining everything they were building. The architect was brilliant. I had to give her that. She had rebuilt the organization's infrastructure with astonishing speed, recruiting new members, establishing new networks, creating new revenue streams. She was everything the founders had been and more. Younger, ruder, more ruthless. But she had made one fatal mistake. She had trusted me that it was during a strategy session that I finally found the opening I needed. The Heir architect was discussing her plans for expanding into Europe, her voice animated with excitement. She had identified a target in London, a rival syndicate that had been encroaching on her territory. I want them eliminated, she said. Every last one of them. Send the message that we don't tolerate competition. With respect, I said ruefully, that's a mistake. She turned to me, her eyes narrowing. Explain. Loud, public violence draws attention. It invites retaliation. It makes us look desperate. I leaned four-way road. Instead of eliminating them, why not absorb them, offer them a deal they can't refuse? Bring them into the fold. Make them part of our operation. She studied me for a long moment. Then she smiled. That's actually a good idea. I didn't expect that from you. I told you I was on your side. Prove it. She stood up and walked to a map on the wall. I want you to go to London. Make the offer personally. If they refuse, I want you to eliminate them. Show me you're committed. I felt my heart race. This was the opportunity one had been waiting for. The chance to get away from her watchful eye, to make contact with the outside world, to start building a network of allies who could help me take her down. Consider it done. I said that London was everything I remembered and nothing I wanted. The city was beautiful, ancient, full of history and culture. But I had no time for sightseeing. I had a mission to complete and a trap to set. The rival syndicate was led by a man named Patrick O'Malley, an Irish mob boss who had been in the game for 30 years. He was old school, suspicious of outsiders, and fiercely protective of his territory. When I arrived at his headquarters with the architect's proposal, he almost laughed me out of the room. Who the hell does this woman think she is? He demanded, pacing behind his desk. She's been in the game for 5 minutes, and she thinks she can waltz in here and take over my operation. She's more dangerous than you realize, I said calmly. But I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to offer you an alliance. An alliance? He snorted. With you, the man who just destroyed the founders. I've heard about you, Russo. You're a snake. You'll turn on anyone. This isn't about trust. This is about survival. She's going to come for you whether you accept the deal or not. The only question is whether you want to fight her alone or with someone who knows how to beat her. He studied me for a long moment. Then he sat down heavily in his chair. What are you proposing? An alliance. I give you information, you give me resources. Together, we take her down. And what do you get out of it? Revenge. I met his eyes. She threatened the people I love. She's going to pay for that. O'Malley was silent for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. Deal. I shook his hand, sealing the agreement. It was the first step in a long plan, the beginning of a network of allies who would help me destroy the architect once and for all. The next month was a blur of activity. I traveled across Europe, meeting with syndicate leaders, building alliances, gathering intelligence. I fed the architect just enough information to keep her satisfied, while secretly preparing for her downfall. But she was no fool. She began to suspect something was wrong. Vincent, she said one evening, her voice deceptively calm. I've been reviewing your progress reports. You've been busy. I'm a busy man. Indeed. You've traveled to London, Paris, Berlin. You've met with half a dozen syndicate leaders. And yet, you haven't sealed a single deal. They're skeptical. It takes time. She walked toward me, her heels clicking on the marble floor. I've been in this business long enough to know when someone is playing me. And you, Vincent, are replaying me. I felt my heart race, but I kept my face composed. I'm not playing you. I'm trying to do what you asked. I asked you to eliminate them, not negotiate with them. I asked you to show me your loyalty. She was inches from me now, her eyes boring into mine. And instead, you've been building an army behind my back. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't. Her voice was cold. Don't lie to me. I know about O'Malley. I know about the meetings in Paris and Berlin. I know everything. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photograph. It was me, meeting with O'Malley, shaking his hand in a private room. The image was crystal clear, obviously taken by someone inside O'Malley's organization. You've been watching me. I said, of course I have. Did you think I would trust you, a man who spent years destroying my predecessors? She laughed, a bitter sound. I may be younger than you, Vincent, but I'm not stupid. I've been waiting for you to show your true colors. So what now? I asked. Are you going to kill me? Killing you would be too easy. She smiled, and there was something terrifying in it. I'm going to make you watch. I'm going to destroy everything you see Heir about, one piece at a time. Sta rooting with the little girl. I lunged at her, but her guards were faster. They grabbed me, pulled me back, pinned me to the floor. The architect watched impassively, her face a mask of cold satisfaction. Take him to the basement, she ordered. I'll deal with him later. They dragged me down a flight of stairs and threw me into a cell, the metal door slamming shut behind me. I lay on the cold concrete floor, Sta ring up at the ceiling, feeling the weight of my failure pressing down on me. I had been so reeful, so clever, and yet, she had been one step ahead of me the entire time. But I wasn't done yet. I had allies. I had resources. And I had a burning desire to see her fall. I just had to get out of this cell first. I spent the next few hours planning. The cell was small, with a single cot and a toilet. The door was reinforced steel, the walls concrete, the ventilation grate too small for a man to fit through. But there had to be a weakness. There was always a weakness. I found it in the ceiling. The ventilation shaft was larger than it looked, its grates secured with bolts that had rusted over time. If I could get the grate off, I could crawl through the shaft and find my way to the surface. I sta root working on the bolts with my ba hands, ignoring the pain in my fingers as they scraped against the metal. It took hours, but eventually I loosened the first bolt, then the second, then the third. The grate fell to the floor with a clang, and I pulled myself up into the shaft. The darkness was absolute, the air thick with dust and old memories. I crawled forward, using my hands to feel my way through the narrow passage. I heard voices above me, and I froze. The architect was speaking to her lieutenants, her voice echoing through the vents. The Russians have agreed to the deal, she was saying. We'll have their support within the week. Once we have their resources, we'll be unstoppable. And the prisoners, keep them alive for now. They're more useful as BA gaining chips. I felt a cold fury wash over me. She was going to use Rosa and Maria as BA gaining chips, leverage to force me into doing what she wanted. I couldn't let that happen. I crawled forward, following the sound of her voice. The vent opened into a closet, and I slipped out, landing silently on the floor. I was in her private quarters, the room where she slept and worked and planned her conquests. The guards were outside the door, but I knew how to deal with them. I found a heavy candlestick on the dresser and waited. The first guard came in to check on me, and I struck him in the back of the head. He crumpled to the floor without a sound. The second guard came in a moment later, and I repeated the move. I was free. I moved through the penthouse like a ghost, avoiding the other guards, making my way toward the exit. But I didn't leave. I had one more thing to do. I found the architect in the main room. Sta ring out at the city, her back to me. She didn't hear me approach, didn't sense the danger until it was too late. I pressed the gun against the back of her head. Don't move, I said softly. She froze. Vincent, I should have known you'd find a way out. I always do. What now, Heir? You going to kill me? No? Killing you would be too easy. I smiled, echoing her words from Heir. I'm going to destroy you. Everything you've built, everything you've worked for, everything you see Heir about. I'm going to take it all away. You'll never get away with it, she said. My people will hunt you down. Let them try. I've been hunted before. I'm still here. I pulled out my phone and made a call. O'Malley, I said when he answered. It's time. She's in New York, at the penthouse. Bring everyone. Within minutes, the penthouse was swarming with O'Malley's men. The architect's guards were overwhelmed, her lieutenants arrested, her empire crumbling around her. I watched it all from the window, feeling a strange sense of peace. The war was over. The organization was gone. And I had finally, truly won. The architect was taken away in cuffs, her face a mask of rage and disbelief. She didn't say a word as they dragged her past me, but her eyes told me everything I needed to know. She had underestimated me. She had underestimated the power of a man who had nothing left to lose. I left the penthouse and walked out into the night, the city lights glittering below me. I had done it. I had destroyed the organization once and for all. That now, it was time to go home. That the penthouse was still smoking when I walked away, the sound of sirens growing louder in the distance. O'Malley's men were securing the scene, cuffing the architect's remaining loyalists, gathering evidence that would put her away for the rest of her life. I had given them everything they needed: records, confessions, a trail of bodies that led straight to her door. She would never see the outside of a prison cell again. I made sure of that. I took a CAR back to the private airstrip where my jet was waiting. The pilot was already warming up the engines, ready to take me anywhere I wanted to go. I gave him the coordinates for the safe house and settled into my seat, closing my eyes for the first time in what felt like days. That the flight was short, but I slept through most of it. When I woke, we were descending through the clouds, the countryside spreading out below me like a patchwork quilt. Green fields, winding roads, a small house nestled in the hills. It was the most peaceful sight I had ever seen. Rosa was waiting on the porch when I arrived. Maria was beside her, clutching her stuffed rabbit, her face lighting up when she saw me. Uncle Vince. She came running toward me, her small arms wrapping around my legs. You came back. Of course I came back, I said, as if ping her up. I always keep my promises. You were gone for so long. Mama said you were fighting bad people. I was. I looked at Rosa over Maria's head. But it's over now. The bad people are gone. Rosa walked toward us, her face a mixture of relief and something else I couldn't quite read. Are you sure? Is it really over? It's over, I said. She's in custody. Her organization is destroyed. There's no one left to threaten us. She nodded slowly, her eyes searching my face. You look different. I feel different. We went inside, and I told them everything. I told them about the architect, about the infiltration, about the betrayal and the escape. I told them about O'Malley and the allies I had gathered, about the final confrontation in the penthouse. Maria listened with wide eyes, asking questions whenever I paused. Did you fight her? Did you punch her? Was she scary? She was very scary, I admitted. But I was scarier. She nodded solemnly. That's good. You have to be scarier than the bad people. I laughed, the first genuine laugh I had let out in months. You're absolutely right. Rosa made dinner, and we ate together at the small kitchen table. It was simple food, nothing like the elaborate meals I had grown accustomed to in my old life. But it was the best meal I had ever had. Later that night, when Maria was asleep, I sat on the porch with Rosa. The stars were out, a million points of light scattered across the dark sky, and the air was still and clean. What happens now? Rosa asked softly. With you, I mean. With your life. I don't know, I admitted. For the first time in 25 years, I don't have a plan. I don't have an enemy. I don't have a war to fight. That must be strange. It is. I looked at her. But it's also a relief. I spent so long fighting that I forgot what it felt like to just live. So live, she said simply. UVA renetted. I reached over and took her hand. She didn't pull away. Rosa, I said slowly. I've been thinking about something. About what happens next. About what I want. What do you want? I want this. I gestured around us. I want peace. I want a family. I want a life that doesn't involve guns and threats and constant fear. That sounds like a good life. It does. But I can't have it alone. I turned to face her fully. I want you to be part of it. You and Maria. I want to build something real, something lasting. I want to be a father to her, a partner to you. If you'll let me. She read at me, her eyes glistening in the light. Vincent, I know I'm not the kind of man you dreamed about. I have blood on my hands. I've done terrible things. But I'm trying to be better. I want to be better. For you. For Maria. She was silent for a long moment. Then she reached up and cupped my face in her hand. I've been waiting for you to say that, she whispered. I've been waiting for years. We kissed, softly at first, then deeper. It was the first time I had felt truly alive in decades. That the weeks that followed were the happiest of my life. We stayed at the safe house, away from the city, away from the memories of violence and loss. I woke up every morning to the sound of birds and the smell of coffee, and I went to sleep every night with Rosa in my arms. Maria thrived. She was surrounded by love and safety, her nightmare residential fading, her laughter growing louder. She called me Papa for the first time, and I wept like a child, but I wasn't done yet. There were still loose ends to tie up, people to thank, debts to repay. Route with O'Malley. I called him from the safe house, thanking him for his help and offering my continued support. Don't thank me, he said gruffly. You did the ha-rd pa-rt. I just cleaned up the mess. Nevertheless, I owe you. If you ever need anything, call me. I will. He paused. What are you going to do now? Russo, you can't just disap AR. The world will find you. I know, but I'm done with the old life. I'm going to start fresh. That's not easy. People like us don't get to walk away. People like us don't get to do a lot of things. But I'm going to try. He laughed, a wah-rm sound. Good luck to you, Vincent. You're going to need it. My next call was to my mother. She was still in Florida, recovering from her health SCA, but she was eager to come home. Vincent, I've been so worried about you, she said. Are you sure it's safe? It's safe, I said. I'll send a CAR for you. I want you to meet someone. I'd love to meet anyone who's made you this happy. When my mother arrived at the safe house, she was overwhelmed. She hugged Rosa like she had known her for years, and she doted on Maria like the grandmother she had never had the chance to be. Vincent, she said, pulling me aside. You found something truly special. I know, I said. I don't deserve it. None of us deserve the good things in life. But we have to accept them anyway. I nodded, feeling the truth of her words. I had spent so long fighting that I had forgotten how to accept happiness. But I was Leah Renning, and I was grateful that the last loose end was more difficult. I had to go back to the city one more time, to face the people who had been part of my old life. My lieutenants, my associates, the men who had fought beside me for years, they were waiting for me in the old office, the same office where I had planned years and signed death warrants. It felt strange being there, like visiting the grave of someone I used to be. Vincent, my oldest friend, stepped forward, his face etched with concern. We RD about what happened. The architect, the organization, all of it. We thought you were dead. Not dead, I said. Just retired. Retired, he laughed, a bitter sound. You can't retire from this life. It doesn't work that way. Watch me. He studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. If that's what you want, I'll make sure it happens. I'll take over the business, keep things running. But you have to promise me one thing. What? If you ever need us, call. We'll come. I shook his hand, the weight of a 25 EA, our pa-rinership settling between us. I will. I walked out of the office one last time, and I didn't look back. That the safe house became home. Rosa and Maria were my world, and I was theirs. I woke up every morning with a purpose. Not to fight, not to destroy, but to love and protect and build Maria Root School, a small country school where the teachers knew everyone's name and the children played in the fields. She thrived there, making friends, Leah Renning, growing. She still had her gift, the ability to hear people's thoughts, but she had Leah Rened to control it, to use it only when necessary. I taught her how to ride a bike, how to fish, how to read the stars. Rosa taught her how to say okay, how to den, how to be kind and compassionate. We were a family in every way that mattered. And I root to heal. The night of May residential faded. The weight on my shoulders lifted. I became the man I had always wanted to be. But the world wasn't done with me yet. One evening, a CAR pulled up to the safe house. I was on the porch, watching the sunset, when the driver stepped out. He was young, well-dressed, with the look of someone who had seen too much violence too young. Mr. Russo, he said, I'm sorry to intrude. My name is Matteo DeLuca, Felix DeLuca's nephew. I felt a chill run down my spine. What happened to Felix? He passed away last week. He wanted you to have this. He handed me a sealed envelope. He said you would understand. I opened the envelope and read the letter inside. Felix's handwriting was shaky, the words of a dying man. Vincent, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I wanted to say thank you for everything you did for me and my daughter. You gave me back my life, and I'll never forget it. But I also wanted to warn you. The organization isn't as destroyed as you think. There are still people out there who want revenge. People who have been waiting for the right moment to strike. That I've done what I can to help you. I've left you a list of names, people who are still loyal to the old ways. Use it wisely. And Vincent, take CA of yourself. You're a good man. Don't let the darkness win. I folded the letter and put it in my pocket. The CAR was already pulling away. Matteo's face disappeared, a ring into the dusk. I stood on the porch, watching the stars AR, feeling the old weight settle back onto my shoulders. The war was over, But the fight wasn't done. I had a new purpose now. A new reason to fight. I walked back inside, where Rosa and Ria were waiting. Ria was coloring at the table, her tongue sticking out in concentration. Rosa was CEO King, the smell of garlic and tomatoes filling the air. Everything okay? Rosa asked, looking up at me. Everything's fine, I said. Just some old business. I sat down at the table, the letter burning a hole in my pocket. I had a choice to make. I could ignore the warning, pretend the organization was truly gone. Or I could act, protect my family, ensure that the darkness would never touch them again. I knew what I had to do. I would wait. I would watch. And when the time came, I would strike. Because that was who I was. The accountant. The protector. The man who never stopped fighting for the people he loved. That the war wasn't over. It never really was. But I was ready. I had always been ready. And I would always be ready. Felix's letter sat in my pocket for 3 days before I opened it again. I read it in the den, alone, while Rosa and Ria were at the market. The names on the list read up at me like ghosts from a past I had tried to bury. 5 names. 5 men who had been part of the organization's inner circle, who had escaped the arrests, who had gone underground to wait for the right moment to strike. I had thought I was finished. I had thought the war was over. But Felix's dying gift had shown me the truth. The organization was like a weed. Cut off the top, and the roots would keep growing, sending up new shoots, spreading through the soil until they choked everything in their path. I had to dig up the roots. The first name on the list was Enzo Romano. He had been the organization's chief financier, the man who had laundered billions of dollars through a network of shell companies and offshore accounts. He had been cunning enough to escape the FBI's net, smart enough to disappear or before anyone could connect him to the crimes. But Felix had given me a lead. Enzo had a weakness, a mistress in Miami, a woman he visited every 3 months like clockwork. She was the key to finding him. I couldn't go alone. I needed help. I called O'Malley. Vincent, he said, his voice gruff. I was wondering when I'd hear from you. I need a favor. I need access to Miami. And I need a team. What kind of team? The kind that doesn't ask questions. He was silent for a moment. Then he said, I know a man. He runs a crew out of Miami, does work for me sometimes. I'll give him your number. Thank you. Vincent. His voice was serious. You know this isn't going to end, right? You'll keep finding new enemies, new threats. There's always someone else. I know, but I'm not going to stop. I can't. I understand. Just be careful. And call me if you need backup. I hung up and route planning. The Miami connection arrived within 24 hours. A man named Dante, with a crew of 4, all of them ex-military, all of them loyal to O'Malley. They were professional, efficient, and they didn't ask questions. It took 3 weeks to find Enzo. We tracked his mistress, followed her movements, watched her patterns. She was careful, meeting him in different locations, never staying in one place too long. But she made a mistake. She visited the same coffee shop every morning, ordering the same drink, sitting at the same table. It was a routine, a vulnerability that we could exploit. I was waiting for her when she walked in. I sat across from her and smiled. Good morning, I said. I'm looking for Enzo. She froze, her hand trembling on her cup. I don't know who you're talking about. Let's not play games. I know about your relationship. I know about the meetings. And I know that if you don't help me, I will find him myself, and I will make both of your lives very difficult. She read at me, her eyes wide with fear. Who are you? A friend of Felix De Luca. He sent me. At the mention of Felix's name, something shifted in her expression. She had known him, I realized. She had been part of the old network, part of the organization structured. Felix is dead, she said. I know. He left me a message. He told me about Enzo, about the others. He wanted me to finish what he route. She was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Enzo is in Cuba, she said. He has a villa there, on the coast. He goes there to escape, to get away from the pressure. He's there now. Thank you. Don't thank me. Her voice was bitter. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for Felix. He was the only one who ever treated me like a person. I left the coffee shop and made the arrangements. Cuba was a quick flight, the villa isolated, the security minimal. Enzo had been arrogant, convinced that his empire had protected him from discovery. He was wrong. I found him in the GA den, sipping a drink and reading a book. He was an old man, his hair white, his face lined with rs of indulgence. He looked up when I approached, and his eyes widened with recognition. Vincent Russo, he said. I should have known you'd find me. You should have known. I agreed. What do you want? Money? I have plenty of it. I don't want your money. I want your life. He laughed, a hollow sound. You're going to kill me, an old man in his GA den. I'm not going to kill you. The authorities are going to do that. I'm just going to make sure you never hurt anyone again. I pulled out my phone and made a call. Within an hour, the Cuban authorities arrived, accompanied by FBI agents. Enzo was taken into custody, his assets frozen, his network dismantled. I left the villa and got back on the plane. 3 names left. The next was a man named Roberto Mancini. He was the organization's enforcer, the man who had done the dirty work for decades. He had killed dozens of people, including several who had been close to me. He was hiding in Argentina, living on a ranch in the middle of nowhere. He had surrounded himself with guardias, turned his home into a fortress. It was going to be difficult to get to him. But I had Leah Renette a long time ago that no fortress was impenetrable. I spent 2 weeks planning the operation. I gathered intelligence, recruited allies, coordinated with the local authorities. I couldn't do this alone, not against someone like Mancini. I needed a team. I needed O'Malley. I needed everyone who had ever owed me a favor. They came. They came from across the world, soldiers, spies, mercenaries, men and women who had been part of the old network, who had seen what the organization was capable of, who wanted to see it destroyed once and for all. We moved on the ranch at midnight. The guardias were taken out silently, their bodies dragged into the shadows. I made my way to the main house, my heart pounding, my gun in hand. Mancini was in his study, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He didn't look surprised to see me. Russo, he said. I was wondering when you'd get here. You knew I was coming. I've been waiting. I knew you wouldn't stop until you found all of us. He took a sip of his whiskey. Go ahead. Do what you came to do. I'm not here to kill you. I'm here to make sure you face justice. He laughed, a bitter sound. Justice? There's no such thing. There's only power. And you, Russo, have all of it. He was right. I had all the power. I had the leverage, the connections, the resources. I could have killed him. I could have made him suffer. But I was done with suffering. I was done with killing. I had spent too long in the darkness, and I had finally found my way out. I called the authorities and watched them take Mancini away. 2 names left. I had 2 more people to find, 2 more deaths to settle. The 4th name was a woman, Maria Rossi. She had been the organization's intelligence chief, the one who had gathered information on enemies and friends alike. She had been the one who had uncovered my identity all those years ago, who had set the wheels in motion that had led to so much destruction. She was in Switzerland, living in a chalet in the mountains. She had covered her tracks well, hidden behind layers of security and false identities. But I was patient. I had Leah Renette patience over the years. Leah Renette to wait for the right moment to strike. I found her on a ski slope, gliding down the mountain with the grace of someone who had never known fear. I was waiting at the bottom, my skis planted in the snow. Maria Rossi, I said. I've been looking for you. She stopped, her face composed. Vincent Russo, I've been expecting you. You have. I knew you'd find me eventually. I've been preparing for this moment for a long time. She pulled off her gloves. What do you want? I want to know why. Why did you do it? Why did you help them destroy my family? She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, because I was afraid. They had leverage on me, things I couldn't escape. I tried to resist, tried to fight, but it was useless. They were too powerful. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. She met my eyes. I'm not the same person I was back then. I've changed. I've tried to make amends. How? She reached into her pocket and pulled out a flash drive. This contains everything I know about the organization. Every operation, every connection, every hidden asset. I've been gathering it for years, waiting for the right person to give it to. You were going to give it to me. I was going to give it to anyone who could use it. But I'm glad it's you. I took the flash drive, my mind racing. It was the final piece of the puzzle, the key to destroying the organization for good. Thank you, I said. She nodded. BCA Refill, Vincent. The last name on Felix's list. He's the most dangerous one. I know. I left her on the mountain and flew back to New York. There was one name left. One person who had been the architect of everything. The mastermind behind my father's murder, the creator of the organization's shadow network, the man who had been pulling the strings from the very beginning. He was called the Ghost. No one knew his real name. No one had ever seen his face. He operated through intermediaries, using layers of protection to keep himself hidden. But Felix had given me a clue. The Ghost had a son, a young man who had never been involved in the organization's operations. He was innocent, untouched by the violence and corruption. And he lived in New York. I found the son at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, a young man named Anthony who worked as a graphic designer. He had no idea who his father really was, no idea about the empire of blood and death that had been built in his name. I approached him gently, carefully. "Anthony," I said, "my name is Vincent. I need to talk to you about your father." His face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about. Your father is a dangerous man. He's been involved in terrible things. And I need your help to find him." "Why would I help you? Because if you don't, he's going to hurt a lot of people, including you." Anthony read at me, his eyes filled with fear, and confusion. Then he nodded slowly. "I'll help you," he said. "But only if you promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you won't kill him." I felt the weight of his request. He was an innocent, just like Maria, just like Isabella. He didn't deserve to be caught in the crossfire. "I promise." I said that he gave me the information I needed. The Ghost was hiding in an underground bunker, a massive complex that had been built years ago to protect the organization's most valuable asset. That I assembled my team one last time. O'Malley came. My old lieutenants came. Everyone who had ever been part of my network came. We moved on the bunker at dawn. It was the hardest fight I had ever been in, a brutal battle that lasted for hours. But we won. We pushed through the defenses, broke down the doors, and found the Ghost hiding in a room at the center of the complex. He was an old man, his face red by years of violence. He looked at me with hate-filled eyes, and he smiled. "Vincent Russo," he said. "You've finally found me. I've been looking for a long time." "I know. I've been waiting." He laughed, a terrible sound. "You think you've won. You think you've destroyed us. There's always another generation. There's always someone else who will take up the cause." "Let them try," I said. "I'll be ready." I called the authorities and watched them take the Ghost away. He would spend the rest of his life in a cell, forgotten and alone. And I would go home to Rosa and to Maria. The war was finally over. The bunker was still smoking when I walked away from it, the sound of sirens growing distant behind me. I had done it. The Ghost was gone, his empire reduced to rubble, his name erased from history. The organization that had haunted my family for 3 generations was finally, completely, and utterly destroyed. I climbed into the waiting car and gave the driver the coordinates for the safe house. The drive was long, but I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind was racing with everything that had happened, everything I had done, everyone I had lost along the way. The sun was rising when I finally arrived. The safe house was bathed in golden light, the fields stretching out behind it like a painting. Rosa was on the porch, a cup of coffee in her hand, her face breaking into a smile when she saw me. "You came back," she said as I walked up the steps. "I always come back." I took her in my arms and held her tight. "It's over. It's finally over." She pulled back and looked at me, her eyes sea-urching my face. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. The Ghost is gone. The organization is destroyed. There's no one left to threaten us." She nodded slowly, accepting my word. That was the thing about Rosa. She didn't need proof. She didn't need explanations. She just needed to know that I was there, that I was safe, that I was hers. Maria came running out of the house, her stuffed rabbit trailing behind her. "Uncle Vince." She launched herself at me, and I caught her, swinging her up into my arms. "Papa," she corrected, her voice firm. "You're my papa now." I felt tears well up in my eyes. "Yes, I am." We went inside, and I told them everything. I told them about the Ghost, about the final battle, about the end of the war. I told them about the people who had helped me, the debts I had repaid, the peace I had finally found. Maria listened with wide eyes, asking questions whenever I paused. "Is the bad man really gone? Is he never coming back?" "He's gone," I said. "He'll never hurt anyone again." She nodded seriously. "Good. Now we can be a real family." The weeks that followed were the most peaceful of my life. I had no enemies to fight, No wars to wage, no debts to settle. I was just Vincent, the man who loved Rosa and Maria. The man who had finally found his way home, that we moved out of the safe house and into a small house in the countryside, a place that felt like it had always been ours. Rosa turned the garden into a riot of flowers, and Maria este root school at the local village, making friends and learning and growing. I este root a new business, a legitimate one. It was small, just a consulting firm that helped local businesses navigate the complexities of the modern world. It wasn't the empire I had once built, but it was honest work. It was work I could be proud of. And I este root writing. I wrote down everything that had happened, everything I had done, everyone I had known. It was a confession, a testament, a legacy. I wanted Maria to know the truth when she was old enough to understand. I wanted her to know where she came from, what I had done, and why I had done it. I wrote about my father, the good man who had been killed because he had tried to do the right thing. I wrote about my mother, the brave woman who had sacrificed everything to protect me. I wrote about Rosa, the woman who had saved my life by loving me. And I wrote about Maria, the little girl who had whispered a warning that had changed everything. I finished the manuscript on a rainy afternoon, the words flowing out of me like a river that had been dammed up for too long. I closed the notebook and set it aside, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. Maria came into the room, her hair wet from playing in the rain. "Papa, what are you doing?" "I'm writing," I said. "I'm writing down our story. Can I read it when I'm older?" "When you're ready," I said. "You'll know when that is." She nodded and crawled into my lap, settling against my chest like she had done so many times before. "Papa," she said, "I think the bad people are gone for good now." "I think so too." "Good." She closed her eyes. "Now we can be happy forever." I held her tight, feeling the warmth of her small body against mine, the weight of a future that was finally free from the shadows of the past. I had spent so long fighting that I had forgotten what it felt like to just be, to exist without fear, to love without reservation. But I was learning. I was learning to be the man I had always wanted to be. That night, Rosa and I sat on the porch, watching the stars up in the darkening sky. She leaned against me, her head on my shoulder, her hand in mine. "Vincent," she said softly, "do you ever regret the things you did every day?" I admitted. "But I also know that I did what I had to do. I protected the people I loved. I made sure that no one else would have to suffer the way my family did. That's not nothing. It's not everything either." I looked at her, at the face that had become my anchor, my compass, my reason for living. "But I have you. I have Maria. I have a second chance. That's more than I ever thought I would have." She smiled, a soft, warm smile that lit up her whole face. "You deserve it, Vincent. You deserve to be happy." I kissed her, gently, deeply, pouring all the gratitude and love I felt into that single moment. "I love you," I said. "I love you and Maria more than anything in this world." "We love you too. We always have." We sat in silence, watching the stars wheel overhead, feeling the peace of a life finally at rest. The next morning, I received a letter. It was from Anthony, the ghost's son. He had found his way back to himself, had root a new life, had made peace with the sins of his father. "Vincent, I wanted to thank you. You showed me mercy when you didn't have to. You gave me a chance to build something different. I'll never forget that. I've root a foundation to help victims of the organization. It's not much, but it's something. I hope that's enough." I folded the letter and put it in my pocket. It was more than enough. It was proof that the cycle of violence could be broken, that forgiveness was possible, that the future didn't have to be a repetition of the past. I went to the garden, where Rosa was tending to her flowers. Maria was chasing butterflies, her laughter echoing through the morning air. "Rosa," I said, "I've been thinking." "About what?" "About the future. About what comes next." She looked up at me, her eyes curious. "And what does come next?" I knelt down beside her and took her hand. "I want to marry you," I said. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you and Maria. I want to grow old with you, watch our daughter grow up, build a life that's full of love and laughter and peace." Her eyes filled with tears. "Vincent, I know I don't deserve you. I know I've done terrible things. But I also know that I love you with everything I am. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you." She was silent for a long moment. Then she threw her arms around me and held me tight. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. I held her, feeling the tears stream down my face, feeling the weight of a lifetime finally lifted from my shoulders. Maria came running over, her face bright with curiosity. What's happening? Why are you crying? These are happy tears, I said, so I'd ping her up. Your mama just agreed to marry me. She squealed with delight. Does that mean you're really going to be my papa? I already was, I said. But now it's official. We spent the rest of the day celebrating, just the three of us. We had a picnic in the garden, played games in the field, watched the sunset together as a family. And when Maria fell asleep that night, Rosa and I sat on the porch, holding hands, watching the stars. Vincent, Rosa said softly. Do you think Maria will ever understand what you did? Why you did it? One day, I said. When she's ready. And when she does, I hope she understands that everything I did for love. For the people I wanted to protect. For the future I wanted to build. She's a special girl. She'll understand. I know she will. I squeezed her hand. She's got her mother's wisdom. Rosa laughed. And her father's stubbornness. I smiled, feeling the truth of her words. Maria was a perfect blend of both of us. Rosa's kindness and compassion, my determination and strength. She would grow up to be someone remarkable. I was sure of it. The wedding was small, just a handful of friends and family. My mother was there, frail but happy, her eyes shining with tears. O'Malley came, gruff and uncomfortable in a suit, but Clea, RLY, moved. Even Felix's daughter, Angela, showed up, her smile bright with gratitude. But the most important guests were Rosa and Maria. Rosa in her simple white dress, her hair adorned with flowers from her garden. Maria in her pretty pink dress, holding the ring cushion with trembling hands. I stood at the altar and watched them walk toward me, and I felt my heart swell with love. I had spent so long fighting, so long destroying, that I had forgotten what it felt like to build something. But I was building now. I was building a family, a home, a future. I was building a life. The ceremony was beautiful, the words simple but profound. When the minister pronounced us husband and wife, I kissed Rosa with all the love I had in me. And when Maria threw her arms around both of us, her tiny voice shouting, I have a family, I knew that everything I had done, everything I had sacrificed, had been worth it. The years that followed were the happiest of my life. We raised Maria together, watching her grow from a curious child into a remarkable young woman. She had her mother's kindness and her father's determination, and she used both to change the world in her own way. She became a lawyer, fighting for justice on behalf of the voiceless and the vulnerable. She never forgot her gift, the ability to hear people's thoughts, and she used it to help her clients, to understand their pain, to fight for their rights. I was so proud of her. I was proud of everything she had become. Rosa and I grew old together, our love deepening with each passing year. We traveled the world, made new friends, built a life that was full of joy and laughter and peace. And when I looked back on everything that had happened, everything I had done, I felt no regret. I had made mistakes. I had done terrible things. But I had also done good things. I had protected the people I loved. I had made the world a little bit better. I had broken the cycle. I was sitting on the porch one evening, watching the sunset, when Maria came to join me. She was grown now, a woman in her own right, but she still had the same smile, the same sparkle in her eyes. Papa, she said, sitting beside me. I've been thinking about the story, the one you wrote. Have you? I've been thinking about everything you did, everything you sacrificed, and I wanted to say thank you for protecting us, for keeping us safe, for giving me a chance to have a good life. I reached over and took her hand. You don't need to thank me, Maria. You gave me a reason to fight. You and your mother gave me a reason to live. She smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. I love you, Papa. I love you too, I said. More than you'll ever know. We sat in silence, watching the sun sink below the horizon. The stars were beginning to appear, one by one, scattered across the darkening sky. That I thought about everything that had brought me to this moment. The bombs in the ballroom. The little girl who had whispered a warning. The war that had consumed my life. The peace that had finally found me. It had been a long journey, full of pain and loss and sacrifice. But it had also been full of love and hope and redemption. I had STA root as a man consumed by revenge, a man who had let the darkness define him. But I had ended as something different, something better. A husband, a father, a protector. I had found my way home. And as I sat on the porch, watching the stars with my daughter by my side, I knew that I had finally found the one thing I had been searching for my entire life. Peace. The accountant was gone. But Vincent Russo, the man, the husband, the father, was finally, truly, and completely at rest at the end.